All right, so.
Where's my
Can I have a
pen?
copy of that letter?
You have black pen?
Can I have a copy of that?
You need a pen?
My pen.
You got it. We try, but we gotta.
Okay, thank
Hi,
you.
everyone. Hello. Okay, so I'm calling the meeting to order. I don't know if we need to.
We should name who's the board members who are here and
So
the
we'll name
committee members.
everybody, we'll go
so
around
sorry.
the table. Whoops, sorry. I'll go around the table, you can introduce yourself, because this is being recorded, so for posterity, right?
Mhm.
So I will start, my name is Lydia Tong, I'm the chair of the governance committee, and why don't we go counterclockwise, because you're, here, go ahead, Margie.
Margie Smith, non-voting member of, of the governance committee, former REAC board, chair of governance, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, it says our mic is muted, what's happening?
No, that's just the laptop's mic. Everyone could hear us. Megan, could you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Awesome, thank you. So by the way, Megan, do you want to introduce yourself? Because she's one of the,
Yes.
committee members.
Hi, everyone. Megan Anderson, Chair Designee, and member of the Governance Committee.
Awesome, thank you, Megan. Ben Falla, I'm a member of the governance committee and a board member.
Rick O'Connor, Roosevelt Islander Online, the local press.
Audrey Tannen, I'm a member of the committee, a non-voting member of the committee, because I work with State Senator Liz Cooper, who represents Roosevelt Island as part of the 28th district. By full disclosure, I also am a Roosevelt Island resident.
I'm Travika Amin. I'm the CFO and VP, and currently in charge and part of the interim leadership team.
Kirti Gandhi, formerly of Gandhi Engineering. My firm performed the services for Helix Rev projects.
Mary Kineen, Acting Chief Operating Officer for REAC Interim Leadership Team. Stavka, Associate Counsel.
And interim leadership team.
Helping.
Okay, so I need to clarify, we didn't actually designate you as members, we designated you as volunteer advisors. So thank you very much, but you're serving the same capacity.
VAs, that's a volunteer advisor. Rose by any other name.
And there's some board objection to calling you members, but I appreciate you. So you're serving as full,
Non-voting.
non-voting
Yeah.
advisors. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Yes? And Conway, as
He's not present.
supposed to be here. He's hopefully on his way, but he's right now not here. Okay, so, I just wanted to, let's go over the agenda. Okay, so, we worked on the bylaws, we worked on the, hopefully you're Tim?
Yeah, I think it's Conway.
Okay, hold on. Okay, Conway is hopefully gonna walk in. So the whistleblower, the bylaws, and the
Procurement policy.
procurement policies, have been worked on to some capacity.
Right.
And Conway said that he was gonna be working on his, providing his input as well. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to, go over the changes that the revisions. Hi, Conway, coming in. Grab a seat,
Okay,
and grab a chair. You can pull that chair.
probably we'll do here if you want.
Oh, that's two, okay. So I'm introducing Conway, unless you want to introduce yourself, Conway?
Conway Echo, board director, governance committee member.
Thank you very much. Okay, so as I was saying, we have worked on the bylaws, on the whistleblower policy, as well as we just started on the procurement policy yesterday. So I don't know whether or not you've had time to look at all of them, but I know Conway only got access to the documents yesterday, so he was going to review them last night, this morning, I'm not sure. So thank you very much, we appreciate it, because Conway is our sole legal mind on the committee. Lotta is also legal mind as well, but she's not,
On the committee.
on the committee. Okay, so thank you so much, we really appreciate all your.
Volunteer advisor?
No, she's staff, she's REAC staff.
Just kidding.
We appreciate her, we really appreciate her. So, what I wanted to do, and can. it's
Yeah, I just
on
shared
screen,
I just shared
on
a screen, yeah.
So, I wanted to go over the bigger parts that are in color. So we went through the red line. Were you able to revise the red line version, Thomas?
No, so I just saw I haven't seen the bylaws, I just saw the whistleblower policy, which I responded to last night, I looked at on my email.
I did not, but
At
I'm.
2:00 in the morning, so, so I've seen the whistleblower policy, fine with that, I had one edit, but go ahead.
Okay.
So I haven't seen this one yet.
So what I want to do is I want to go through the largest pieces of change in the bylaws, the largest pieces of change in the whistleblower policy, and the procurement policy. And I need all the legal minds to fix things as we go, so thank you very much. So Lada and Carmen, we're going to rely on you a lot. So let's scroll up the bylaws.
Okay, so we'll start with the bylaws. So
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go through the changes that were proposed. I'm just gonna skip stuff that are obvious. And these are changes that the team made. If you look at the screen, I can't really add more to it. So the teams, I guess Lada or someone in your team made these changes. Lada made these changes. You wanna speak of this change?
That's a very simple change, it just changed the name of our neighborhood legislation. We used to be second chapter of the laws of New York 1984, and now we are Title 35 of Public Authorities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't know it, that
Yeah,
sounds good
that's
to me.
our correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. Here we see that there was a change made by Arthur, so by the way, Arthur was a prior lawyer in the firm?
Yes, here we have merged document from with our 2018 revisions. Arthur Elias is our associate counsel, and he was our associate counsel. He was working on this in 2018, but these
Right.
revisions.
Never went
were
through.
approved. Yes, that's the draft that I used for 2024 revision.
That makes sense. In this scenario, you really just changed the language that the approval shouldn't be by the corporation, but by the board of directors, which completely makes sense to me. Then when we move into the chapter of directors, I believe that, who added this? I believe it was Lydia, myself, and I think with the help of Audrey and Margie, that we added a sentence. The sentence is, these elected officials may send a delegate to sit at the table in any committee or board meeting as non-voting participants. As our elected officials are literally named in the law that created REAC, there was never clarity over what is their involvement or how deep their involvement could be. So we wanted to ratify and make sure that if our elected officials have an interest in a certain topic, they not only should be invited, they have a right to sit at the table and share their perspective. So we wanted to make sure that we put that in writing. Continued.
There's a typo in that.
Which typo? There.
Official.
That looks like a typo. That looks like something I would do. By the way, I'm a typo person. So there we go. Gorgeous. All right, so to the next step. The next one is in compensation, and this is kind of like I want to explain the rationale behind it when Lydia and I discussed about this. And I'm not going to go into specific litigation because obviously I'm not supposed to do that. But from what I gathered from conversations with lawyers, that if someone sues members of the board they can't really countersue because they don't have financial loss over that lawsuit. So I believe it's in the best interest of the board that each board member is compensated $1 a year. So that way, if ever someone sues board members, we could then counterclaim with our own counterclaim, and there'll be a legal justification for it because we might lose that $1. So it's a technicality, but I wanted to make sure that if in the future someone sues board members, that board members could tell their lawyers, please countersue.
Do we know what statute that's based upon?
Define statutes?
What law or regulation requires the board member to receive compensation in order to be defended by a lawyer?
That is not what I said, but if I clarify what I said, the enacting legislation doesn't go into if board members would be compensated or not, if I'm not mistaken. our bylaws stipulate that the directors may not receive any other salary or compensation for their role or services. So it's really up to us as the governance committee to decide if we compensate board members or not. Now, I don't think that we should have board members receiving salaries, but I do think it's important to make sure that if someone has a frivolous lawsuit, and our legal team believes it's a frivolous lawsuit, and our legal team wants to countersue, but they can't because we don't have any financial loss, to make sure that there is some sort of justification as to say that we might lose our $1, so that way we could countersue. Does that answer your question?
So it's a matter of, is there a financial loss in order to defend yourself as a board director?
Exactly.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish what you're gonna say, Colin.
No, I just was not familiar with that being a requirement for a board director to be defended by the Attorney General's office. We've had several lawsuits against REAC and as with directors by name, where we've been able to be defended by the Attorney General's office.
Defended doesn't mean countersue. Did you countersue?
No, we didn't bring any affirmative litigation against.
But you're saying we'd have to have a financial loss in order to be able to countersue?
That's what I was advised by my legal counsel.
Oh, I think it would be a, harm.
But of course, I cannot go into specific legalities, but for my,
I have a comment. Before we proceed with these technicalities, I just want to let you know that the update, I'm sorry I'm like interfering now, but I think it's important to say that we are hiring outside counsel from KLM, and he will be going through all these suggestions. So there is no need for us to come up to any conclusion or state that it's safe here, because he will be reviewing that. And
makes sense.
we will
I would
have people meeting next
week.
week. So you can address.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, can we flag this one as an item for outside attorney review? This is inconsistent with almost every single authority bylaw that I've ever seen and other boards that I've participated in. So, I would like their expert opinion on that. I don't think this is necessary, this change, and I'd like them to look at it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think what they're trying to get at is when you sue, any of us in this room, if you bring a lawsuit, one of the questions is, what are your damages?
Right.
But this wouldn't solve for that though, because if you only have $1 as your damages, they're gonna throw that out just the same as if you received no compensation, because you still don't have any damage. Like $1 is not damages enough to sustain a lawsuit against a party that is suing you. So I think, I would agree with the flag for outside counsel. We don't have to belabor here, but I don't think this one is going to, I don't think we need this change.
I think we could move on to the next thing. So we'll hear from our counsel once they have a chance to review, so let's continue. I added a comment so that way our counsel will be able to, notice it. Okay, so that was that. And the next item. So this was a change from the internal team. I think they added a dash for some reason. Arthur added a dash. I'm okay with it. I don't think that we need to talk about the dash. Section 8. So the Section 8 was introduced by Arthur and extended by Lydia in consultation with Drew and Margie. So Section 8 says, resignation. Any member of the board of directors may resign upon written notice to the chairperson or after missing 5 consecutive meetings without communications. Seems reasonable.
Yeah, I had added a comment in here on this one. I was just unclear. On the 5 consecutive meetings, does that mean they are, does that imply that 5 absences is a resignation? Or are they removed by default of that? I just feel like this is I understand, no-show should be kind of handled, but I don't know if it's here in resignation, or, I don't know or maybe the wording needs to change.
Yeah, I think CLM, as Lada said, could take a deeper look, and your comment is there, so I'm sure they'll come back with feedback on it. I think the main goal, if I'm not mistaken,
the intent, I just think it needs to be clarified.
That makes
I
sense.
think we need some legal
Yeah,
language.
yeah.
Otherwise, it can't be replaced, and you
100%.
technically say they are resigned.
Yeah, it's too open-ended right now, agreed.
That's fine.
Okay.
Or like if
So
I
I
just
will-
decide to not show up 5 times, have I resigned? Like that's kind of what that says.
It sounds like if you communicate, you're okay.
Not if you communicate.
Right. We need to
Right, that's
figure
what I
out the
mean. If I
language.
no-show without communicating 5 times, I'm automatically resigned? Like that's, I don't,
That's what it says, right?
Yeah, because it stops anybody from replacing you.
Right.
And
Does
so
that
it's
affect your
empty seat.
quorum too?
Sorry,
Does that
it could affect a
your
quorum, it could
Does
affect
that-
anything.
but if that wasn't my intention, I mean, resignation is by, like, personal intention, it's not, you know, I think we just, let's have someone look at that.
I guess the one thing I would have maybe, an issue is if you're, incapacitated medically.
Right,
So that could be an issue.
right.
So I don't know necessarily that they would have the capacity to resign or want to resign. Maybe they would want to step back on board when they came out their, I don't know, coma or
But
whatever.
if you're 5 months unable.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's 5 months.
Even with a
That's a long
phone
time.
call, I think it's time to
Yeah.
replace you.
Or us, at least, if it was a medical issue, I feel like somebody on the board would have been notified, and I think we could say, that's not a without communication situation. If we find out.
Yeah, I agree with what this said. You would need to certainly add language that clarifies communication to whom, by when, all those metrics. In addition to that, there was an issue with Shinozaki resigned, and it wasn't communicated to the governor's office, and they still had the head count as if Shinozaki was still here. So I think we also want to take an opportunity to address
Yeah.
the communication to the governor's office as well.
Let me add that in as a comment. I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
when the determination is made, here's how the
Right,
governor's office
right.
gets notified.
so, Conway, we need to include language of how, resignation is communicated to the governor's
I
office.
think it's secretary to the board.
That one?
I think it's secretary to the board needs to notify the governor.
Yeah, but we wanna write it down in our bylaws.
It hasn't
Yeah,
happened, so, yeah.
Right.
Clearly, we had a scenario where the governor's office thought that there was more members than there were, yeah. Which seems like it was still a pain point for some, which is reasonable. Okay, so, hopefully we get a good answer to that. Sorry. All right, so to the next item.
You have to avoid clerical errors.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in TQM, which stands for Total Quality Management. Mistakes happen, they're normal. Sit around a table and you figure out how to prevent those mistakes from happening again. And hopefully also with our conversation with Dr. Gandhi, it's exactly that. Hopefully we learn and we put systems in place so errors that might have been made do not happen again. Okay, so this one is, provided by, myself, so that means Lydia and I worked on this. So, Lydia and, I'm reading the chairperson as Lydia. So, the chairperson of the directors calling the meeting shall fix the time for holding the meeting in coordination with the board members. So, we spoke about this in the prior meeting, that sometimes, people, unbeknownst to them, they don't realize that we all have full-time jobs, or a lot of us, and dates should be coordinated with board members. They shouldn't be forced on board members without us participating in the deliberation of when meetings should take place. So we just wanted to make sure that it's in coordination, still held in the hand of the chairperson, but the chairperson should seek from the board members their availabilities, which I feel like we've been doing a much better job at that in the last few months, which we're all grateful for. All meetings shall be at the office of the corporation.
Hold on.
Yes,
On that
please.
last one, I think that
Mhm.
comment's redundant, the addition is redundant.
We don't feel that way though.
Wait, what? Hold on a second, I apologize, because I'm trying to pull this up on my computer, and I'm being, a little distracted. So can you repeat what you just said, because I missed a beat?
Yeah, my part?
Yeah, and then Megan's part after.
Okay, so what we said is that, when we first joined the board, no one consulted us when should meetings take place. They just told us a meeting is gonna happen, it's gonna be on this date and that time. A lot of us work full-time and we can't just jump and arrive, sometimes you're teaching at night. sometimes I'm late at work. So we need to have like some sort of communication between the chairperson and the board members to make sure that the board members could arrive. Unfortunately, that did not happen multiple times throughout the 1 year that we've been here. So Lydia and I added into the sentence, in coordination with the board members, so it's still saying that the power is bestowed upon the chairperson, but the chairperson should be in coordination with the board members. And Megan, you said you had an issue with that. Could you elaborate on your issue with that?
I believe that it's redundant, because the chairperson or the director is calling the meeting, shall fix the time for holding the meeting. I don't know why additional board members have to be coordinated in writing here. First of all of the board meetings for the year are scheduled and approved by the board at the end of the calendar year, so they're already established. I'm sorry if you joined the board mid-year, mid-cycle, the meetings were scheduled and notices were given, and that's how it's usually done. If there's an emergency meeting, like we're trying to do presently, coordination is handled as best as we can based on scheduling. I don't necessarily believe that addition is needed in that sentence.
Oh, I really appreciate that, Megan.
Purpose. And also, if you're going to make this ad, it should say directors in consistency with the rest of this document, not board members.
I love that. Let me just respond to that, and then we'll move on if we can't get to an agreement. I just want to remind you, Megan, that this year we scheduled our board meetings for the full year. You did not consult with the board members of the dates and times. You arrived into the board, I'm literally talking to you directly. You arrived to the board meeting and said, these are the dates, let's authorize them. Lydia then said, I can't do Thursdays, and you said, I believe, please, I'm paraphrasing, it's all been recorded. You said, you volunteered to this job, you knew you're supposed to be available on Thursdays, so we're not going to change it. So clearly you were on the record, on video, saying to a board member that you don't really care to consider their time.
Yeah,
so I wanted to make sure that in writing, we don't do something like that again. If that's reasonable, I believe that it's an important addition.
Well, it's not what I said, that I don't care.
We can pull up all those documents.
And secondly, there is a history behind why the meetings are the day and time that they are, and that's not being considered in this conversation. So I am expressing my disagreement with this comment and addition. I defer to the chair on how she wants to handle that. Can a comment be added to this document that says this should be looked at further? But you don't have to come at me personally then when we're discussing these things.
No, this is not an attack. It's just reminding you of an event that took place recently.
I think how you would normally address this type of because it's the chair, obviously, if a chair, you have to recognize the dynamic of what we're talking about. So the chair is going to call the meeting. If a board member ultimately says that they can't make it, the chair is still empowered to call the meeting. Absent that board director's attendance. But I think what you want to get at here is probably say something to the effect of, in coordination with board directors, whose attendance shall not be unreasonably withheld, or something to that effect. So you can mark that for outside counsel to wordsmith. But I think you want to be clear, because it introduces ambiguity into who's responsible for actually calling the meeting. It's the chair, of course. Board members can call meetings, board directors can call meetings as well, but there needs to be some type of clarity there to say, the show has to go on.
Yeah, makes sense.
Can I get something too? So we typically approve the schedule for the next meetings for the next year in December. So we have a schedule. So, and for years it was Thursday, but we can certainly pick up certain days that's convenient for all board members, and regularly scheduled board meetings need to be approved a further time in December. So I think this December we'll be working on the schedule. We can pick up a different date, so which accommodates all the board members. And this way we won't have an issue that Thursday doesn't work for Lydia, for example. We can pick up Wednesday or any other days that that is a good day for all the board members. But it was just historically, it was Thursdays all this year. So that's why we stayed with this schedule. And we've learned late after we already drafted the schedule, but we can certainly pick up a different date. And again, it's the chair's prerogative to schedule like other dates. Again, it's either chair of the board who schedules the board meeting, or the board meeting is scheduled upon the request of 3 board members.
Right. I completely agree with you. And let me take back a bit of my words that might have sounded like an attack. I believe that the chairperson just approves the dates, and she works with the team at REACT to coordinate the dates. Unfortunately, those dates were coordinated in a period of time where the staff were not allowed to speak with board members. So the staff never even reached out to the board members to ask them if these dates are convenient to you. Hopefully, we never approach that again, but this will enable making sure that no matter what, that we inform. And to your point, Conway, the board members don't have the final say. If the chair has a quorum, she has a quorum, or they have a quorum.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolute. But consultation with the board members is all that's requested, so that the board members could say, hey, I can't make it on this date, could we do it on that date? Doesn't mean that the chairperson will adhere to it, but it's important that those communication channels happen and they're not retroactive after decisions were made. That's the whole point of this. So I apologize if it sounded like that I'm blaming the chair for the dates, because I don't think the chair necessarily knew that there was that gap in communication where the staff were not allowed to speak with board members.
Yeah, staff always coordinate with all board members to make sure, just like we pull every board member available.
Unfortunately, they didn't do that.
So I don't think this needs to be
Unfortunately, that wasn't.
reflected in the bylaws. It's kind of.
It wasn't done though. In
normal practice,
Yeah.
but it was a deviation of practice, a standard practice, and it's common sense for staff to coordinate with the board members before approving certain dates, which is not the date for regularly scheduled board meetings.
I completely agree with you.
But I guess in your experience,
And that goes back to TQM, total quality management. If it never happened, I would never bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
So going forward in December, before we plan out the calendar, can we send them the dates that,
We
that we're
would
tentatively planning to?
Yeah, we can extend it to
The
the
board meeting?
entire board. We typically
Right.
send it to the chair of the board and executive team to confirm their availability.
Right.
But we physically cannot accommodate all the board members. But we can try this.
but if a board member says, I teach
On
Tuesday,
Thursdays,
Thursday
right,
night,
Yeah.
right.
you try to not
What
schedule that.
typically happened years ago, when there was very little contention on kind of less important things, we showed up in December and it was on the agenda and here are the dates. And if one of us couldn't make it, we would say, I can't make it. Can we make it to the day before? Yeah, okay, we'll switch it. And we almost
Mhm.
never had to, because they were scheduled so far in
Right.
advance.
Yes,
Right.
we need to
But-
stick to the schedule, but we need to
Sure.
confirm
Right.
availability and convenience for everyone
Yeah.
before we.
Yeah, and Lottery Friday was always like Thursdays, and everybody kind of knew that, but now there's a different situation with
Yeah, we
with
can make
Lydia.
it Wednesday.
And so you can make them Wednesdays, or,
Right.
whatever.
Okay, so that makes sense. So obviously, we all want to work together, so it sounds like we need to figure out TQM, we made a mistake last year, we're trying to fix it, language could be adjusted. The whole idea is that we all are aware of the dates before that they're published, so that way we could have some influence on it. And maybe the answer would be no, we have a quorum, we need to do it on this date, and that's reasonable as long as all the board members had a chance to say, but I can't do Thursdays at all. And then, I believe what happened is, let's not dig much deeper into it, I think,
Yeah.
let's move on. So, let's see what this one is. This was Otto, Lydia and I originally, and then it was extended with Audrey and Marcia. So I'll just read the sentence. At any such meeting, any and all matters shall be considered and acted upon by the members of the authority present, whether or not such matters were specified on the agenda. Meetings shall be held in facilities that permit barrier-free physical access to physically handicapped as defined in subdivision 5 of section 50 of the buildings law, plus closed captions using AI technology for the hearing loss and ESL committees. And by the way, before we move on to deliberation on this, when you are in the Zoom, if you're in the Zoom right now, and I'm going to show it to you guys, you could always click into more, click into language and speech, and then turn on live captions. And once you do that, the closed captions will appear on the bottom of your screen. So I can't show it because I'm presenting right now, but if you, in the app while you're watching it, Megan or anyone else, you click on more, language and speech, and then, turn on, closed caption. And that way, anyone in the community that is hearing impaired, and ideally, when we do this in front of, a larger audience, we should have a large screen and have the closed caption displayed. So if you have any issues hearing because the microphones are not set up correctly, or someone just is hearing impaired, that they could just read the closed captions. Are we good? So we'll continue?
Any languages?
I have a comment on this one. Comment, you can go first if you want.
No, that was it. Technology, instead of AI technology.
Cool.
So it's whatever we got.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of mine. I think, I appreciate the intention of this. I think it just needs to be wordsmithed a little bit. I think you're limiting the accessibility by having physically handicapped there. I think it needs to be a broader accessibility.
I don't know how to do the language thing, I'll leave it to the lawyers and you guys to figure out the language.
I know, I want to make the comment on the record that needs to change, to incorporate everyone and not just the physically handicapped and I don't think we're supposed to use that word either. And if you are trying to incorporate technology to provide increased accessibility, I don't think you should be limiting it to just closed captioning and to say the ESL communities expressly. So yeah, this section needs some refining.
Megan, can you say that? I'm sorry.
ADA compliant.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some boilerplate that says.
Yeah, it should, yeah.
Yeah, Megan, I'm sorry, can you repeat the last thing of what you said? Because it was a little garbled from my perspective.
I just said that this section just needs some more refining. It's kind of limiting specific populations in the wording here, and we need to make it more broad to capture everyone. And the technology should not be just for those in the ESL communities. Like closed captioning is used by more people than.
And I won't use the word disability because I know that that's a word that's not a kind word these days. So we'll figure out the language, the right legal language, and that totally makes sense.
And I also wanted someone to double check that public buildings law reference to make sure that that is where the actual definition is for ADA compliance, and if that's state or federal law, that should be noted as well. If you're going to add this way.
Reference if okay. Okay, I think I got your feedback. Okay. Onwards. So next is, this was, I believe, Arthur. So this is just, we're not using whatever that is that used to be, we're just modernizing the email. Fax machine, yeah.
Fancy name.
It's a very fancy word for fax machine. And this is like, and I completely agree with Arthur, but I personally feel like it should be more than just 3 days, but this is notices that need to be provided, and how long before the meeting they should be provided. Here, originally it was, and I don't know who modified this. This is Arthur as well.
72 hours.
So, and I feel like that we should aim for like 5 business days, but I know that often enough we don't, but it's so important because there's no reason it's really hard for the community to be engaged if they just get suddenly a notice that tomorrow there's a meeting, or in 48 hours there's a meeting.
Best practice is a week, but at least 70 hours.
Agreed. And so I'm going to add here, like, if we could add here some sort of like best practices. I know that it's like, can we add language that extends this further? I'm just going to write that, and I'm going to leave it to the team and to the lawyers to figure out. Because really the goal itself, we're a public authority. Our goal is to serve the public. The public needs to know about meetings, and if we announce it like Friday night for a meeting that's happening on Tuesday, it's not fair for the public.
And quick comment, as we post regularly scheduled board meeting for the next year already on the website, we satisfy this requirement. The notice is there, so the requirement is only for the notice, not so much for the agenda.
I agree.
Already there.
So you're right.
Regular scheduled meetings, we already satisfy this requirement for the entire year for this particular scheduled board meeting. For special board meeting, it should be as reasonable as practicable. not necessarily 72 hours.
But we don't accommodate for committee meetings, not long
For
ago.
committee meetings, yes.
We don't, and we should. And also, our schedule is very flexible. How often do we actually do the meetings in the scheduled date? They change usually. I think quite often they change. So yes, you're right. So from the minimum of what we have to do, we give a year advance notice. We're really talking about what happens if the date changes 3 days forward or backwards, or what if there's a committee meeting and so on and so forth. So it's not about, it's really just about making sure that the public is aware, and that's really the whole goal.
Yeah, and to your point, right now, we're only discussing board of director meetings, right? Do we need to discuss any logistics for committee meetings?
Yeah, we have a separate,
Okay.
you have a second paragraph for committee meetings, yeah. So that is correct, because right now, we're literally only talking about, full board meetings, and we do have a schedule in advance, but sometimes we have emergency meetings, such as one that we're working on right now.
Or
Quick comment, according to open meetings law, both board of directors meetings and committee meetings are public meetings.
Yes.
It's open meetings. This is
Right.
the same
They are,
requirement in terms
exactly.
of notices. It's not
Exactly.
any different.
Exactly.
So whatever we have, the notice requirements for the board, it's the same board meetings, the same requirements for committee meetings.
100%. Okay, so that's this bit where we just switched to emails. Arthur switches to 3 days. I think, Lydia made sure that 3 days are in all of them, so there was a change to 3 days, but it wasn't in the second paragraph down below. And then there's another addition provided by Lydia with the assistance of our, what are we gonna call you guys? Because I don't know. Volunteers, with our volunteers.
Volunteer advisor.
Our volunteer advisors. Okay, so they added also.
Molly's.
Yeah, that public notice shall be given to the Roosevelt Island community no less than 3 days prior to the scheduled meeting, which sounds reasonable to me.
And this is required.
How is that different?
It's 72 hours, it's 3 business days. I mean. the
No,
word-
I mean, how is the public notice to the community different than the notice in general?
That is a really good question, and I believe we have someone from the local media who could probably respond to that. At some period of.
It's the same notice to community and to public, it's just the same requirement.
But I think I don't know, so I'm just gonna ask. This is not me stating, this is me asking. Were there any scenarios that we had a board meeting or committee meeting that we just published it on our website, but didn't inform our local media and stay beyond?
Legal requirement is post the agenda notice on REAC website
Right.
and distribute the notice to board members, elected officials,
Right.
and media. That's the legal requirement.
So then
And advisory, we go like beyond what is required by law.
That makes sense.
So notice should be conspicuously posted in public areas for the public
Right.
on the website, and it sends the notifications, and the notice should be sent to, again, to the board members, to elected officials, and to media.
That makes sense.
Legal requirement.
Could I just quickly, because we might be
And
able to
usually
delete
we
this.
keep them apprised of all these notices through our advisory, so we even go beyond the
Right.
legal.
Let me just ask quickly,
What-
Rick,
what-
do you mind answering if you always got notices for all committee and board meetings?
The general rule is I usually get it. There may be a couple of instances where I didn't get it,
Right.
but the general rule, the general practice was I received it.
So it sounds to me that we're not objecting to it. We all agree that we should do it, and we are doing it, so this is just a reaffirmation that we do it. So there's nothing here that there's no substantial disagreement, it sounds like.
But honestly, it's already outlined in the law, in the open meetings law. If you put every provision that exists in the law here, it will be a
Right.
very big document, but
Sure.
something.
Yeah.
Margie, one.
Well, I'm just saying back before we had REAC advisories, maybe REAC advisories didn't, I'm sure like you remember, they used to post it on the door in Class
Yeah, we
91.
can do.
So we had that there or on the kiosk. So anybody who wasn't online, any of
Yes.
some more senior citizens who don't necessarily get online every day, they would literally go up there and see it on the door or on the kiosk.
Hmm.
We post physical
Overkill, but
notices
you-
on all of our.
Right, you've had
on our
physical
roads.
notices put up.
524, at 680,
Mhm.
yes, we post these notices.
Right. And that's kind of always seemed to work. But I mean, the world is getting away from that, I get
Right.
it. But I think there are still
There are-
some people
Yeah,
who
people
are
who
not.
just need to.
Right.
I mean, I know, like in Rivercrest, we send out everything, but you'll find something under
Yeah,
your door
yeah,
when it's
100%.
really important.
Yeah, 100%. And I believe that also often REAC sends stuff to your board, and then your board just reads it to the community.
Sometimes, depends what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do, like, do you guys want to remove it, do you want to keep it? Like, I have no stake in this specific,
I don't know,
sentence.
Tom.
Well, if it's already in the law.
It's already mandated by law, so.
So we all are in agreement to just remove it?
We should just take it out.
Okay, so I'm removing it. Let me see how I remove it.
Reject.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the reject. I think it's X, okay, reject.
Yeah, the little
Done.
box in the comment, yeah.
Yeah, I just found the thing. Okay, so quorum and voting, so let me just see who, helped. So this was Lydia, myself, with the generous advice of our advisors.
Your volleys.
Yeah. So, this is about quorum and voting, as it reflects to, I believe, oh yeah, this is also about committees, okay. A quorum of any committee meeting shall consist of a majority of the committee members. No official committee business can be conducted without a quorum present. If there's an even number of committee members, a simple majority will constitute a quorum. And that's just because I know that a few years ago, we have passed a resolution that says that 2 board members are a quorum, which seems silly in the context of 4 board members in a meeting. So we're just ratifying in our bylaws what is the definition of a quorum.
Yeah, it should be simple majority.
Yeah, simple majority.
Both for the board, because for the board it's clear.
Yeah.
For committees, it's also.
Well, the board is not simple. The board has to be 5 members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that is a
it's
simple.
not- it's a
Oh,
majority
yeah.
Of the members
Yeah,
in office.
yeah. Not of the ones that are present, but
Right,
of the
not
ones that are
present and
appointed,
voting,
right?
then in office.
100%.
then in office, exactly.
100%.
And now we have the full board.
I'm not, can you just?
There you go.
Hey, excuse me, sorry. The last sentence, can you explain that to me? I'm not following.
Which one will constitute a quorum?
No, if there was an even number of committee members, a simple majority will
I think we were
constitute a
just-
quorum.
Yeah, we're just saying it's
Majority
majority.
says the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, I think, sorry, you're all talking over each other. I can't understand you. One at a time, please.
Okay, let me take this one. Okay, so a simple majority is 50% plus 1. That's the definition of a simple majority. So instead of explicitly saying 50% plus 1, we just said simple majority because it's less work.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Megan?
Yeah, okay.
Awesome. I'm sure the lawyers will refine it further, but the intent is that a simple majority, is what defines if we're in quorum in a board meeting or in a committee meeting.
And that's just for the committee?
It's both for committee and for board meeting.
The simple
Does that mean
majority?
that That's be amended, the
Yeah,
resolution that we currently have right now,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
2 members of the
Yeah,
committee
so-
represent a quorum.
I'm not a lawyer, but from what I understand, for the full board, we don't have to do anything because that's defined by the open meeting law that defines that 5 members, in our case, a simple majority, is a quorum. But we passed like a very silly, resolution.
It was passed.
Yeah, a very silly resolution was passed that hard-coded that 2 members are a quorum, which doesn't make
For a
sense
committee.
for a committee, exactly. And that is actually, because of that, the open committee, the COG, Committee of Open Governance said, yeah, and, for 2 members is, and obviously we have to undo that, so we figured, let's make sure that we ratify it in our bylaws. Once we ratify it, then that will resolve that issue. So Megan, I don't think we're talking necessarily about the full board, because that's already ratified in law.
Okay.
We're
Yep.
just
Yep.
correcting the,
So, on that point, I think this should be a separate paragraph under this section.
Okay. Make it
Um,
a separate.
I'm gonna put a
Not,
comment here.
because you're combining committee and board quorum in the same paragraph. It should be separate.
Please confirm, right, between,
Because, I mean, you just have to remember, your audience in any of these amendments is not just the current board membership, it's any future membership as well. So we need to be clear in what you're trying to say.
100%. I added that comment in, so please separate between committee and full board meetings. So CLM, when they pick this up, they'll do that final polishing and making sure that everything's sitting in the right place.
Yeah, can I just put a return on?
Yeah, please do, yeah.
You can just
Yeah.
hit the return.
Right,
That's perfect.
and that's why I don't understand that, why,
Did it?
Yeah, I
Oh.
just did it.
So I could delete the comment?
No, well,
Okay.
whatever.
All right, I'll leave it there for now, unless you guys think I could delete the comment. Okay, I'll just continue, because it's not that critical. We're not gonna waste everyone's time to talk about a comma break or whatnot. Okay. Next, this was, let me see what this is. So this was added by Arthur and extended by, Lydia and myself. So Arthur added that interested directors, a new section, any director having an interest in any entity involved in a matter coming before the board shall, one, make a good faith disclosure of said interest, and two, recuse herself? Themselves?
Yeah.
Themselves. Oh, herself or himself, okay. From any deliberation or voting on the matter to avoid the appearance of impropriety. For the purpose of this section, an interest shall mean the ability to exercise control or receive direct financial benefit from the entity. Interested directors who might have an appearance of impropriety, and I can't say that word, should not participate in the deliberation nor vote on the matter. So this is just saying that it kind of makes sense. If you have an interest in something, you probably shouldn't be part of the.
Well, it's actually not, interested directors.
You already say that they have to recuse themselves, so that covers that. It's repetitive.
Oh, yeah, you're right, deliberation is right here, yeah. So this seems to be overkill, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think it also depends on the definition.
To keep it?
No, I'm just saying, do we define interest somewhere?
Do we define interest?
It is in the last
It's
red
counted,
sentence.
yeah.
Okay.
Dr.
Interest shall mean the ability to exercise control, and then it has that.
Okay, so if a board member, for instance, is just a member of, I don't know, the, Disabled Association or something, they can still discuss it, they can still, because unless they're on their board or something like
And
that.
please know that we have a separate concept of interest policy, which
That we need to go over, right?
embedded in our ethics
Right.
policy, so it's part of its concept of
So
interest.
do we want to say
have, because,
an interest as outlined in the,
I don't know, we'll
Conflict
do too
of
many
interest
cross
policy?
Yeah,
references, because
yeah.
we already have it, somewhere.
yeah, okay, do we want to just reference that as the,
Incorporate by reference.
an
if you want.
interest as outlined in the conflict of interest policy or something like that? I'm not suggesting we repeat it all, the thing will be this long.
I like that policy, okay. Okay, did I mess that one up? All right, whatever. Alrighty. So, next, I apologize, Dr. Gandhi, we'll switch to you shortly.
No, that's okay.
Public session, 0.
Yeah, put 0 in public session, so first is.
Oh, okay, so yeah.
This is just agenda.
So if I recall correctly, this was a suggestion that was added by Margie of making sure that we record and add into the agenda to the public session, which sounds reasonable as we're a public benefit corporation. Does anyone object to the public having, being added into the agenda as the first
Yeah.
item?
I don't object to the public session itself, but it's not an order of business of the corporation. So if you want to add a section that the public will be allowed to address the board at a time during the meeting, fine, but not in the order of business of the corporation and the directors.
Yeah, so I agree actually with Megan, because public session, we invite public to participate and we have public comment period, but under open meetings law, it's not a part of the board meeting.
Yeah, it's not required.
Yeah, because it violates open meetings law, you know?
In what way would it violate?
Yeah, but it's not that is foreseen by open meetings law, because open meetings law suggests that the public has the opportunity to observe and
Right.
listen.
And
And there's
participate.
no participate, and we can invite to participate, but there is no legal obligation for us to make the public session a part of the board meeting.
Not legally, but there's also no
No,
objection to it.
it's not a board meeting, because public does not participate in the board meeting itself.
I want to read,
We can ask, yeah.
I want to say what you
Yeah,
said again, just to make
Lotta
sure
has
that you
Lotta's
hear.
point is right. This is
But
saying
if I
that
may,
this
Megan,
is,
Wait, one person at a time, can't do both.
if you don't mind, I want to rephrase what you said to make sure I understand it correctly. Lotta, you're saying that in the open meeting law, there is no definition that includes the public session into the, and your conclusion from that is that it's against the law to add the public session into the meeting's, agenda.
Yes, because public has the right to observe and listen.
And participate.
No.
But
Observe
the,
and
but the
listen.
law says the public should not participate. The law says
How can we
explicitly,
say,
yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, Megan, what were you gonna say?
No, I have no issue with the public session in concept and in of itself. I just don't think it should be in this section, as an order of business of the meeting of the of the directors. If we want to add another section, and just describe that a public session can be held in advance of the meeting or with it in concert with the meeting or something, but I just don't think it's appropriate for it to be part of the order of business, that's all.
My point here was to somehow get the public on record as having.
Right, and I think a separate section is fine for that.
But it doesn't say what they said then, and so it won't be recorded, or it won't be down for posterity, like with the CB8 meetings and other kinds of public forums like that. It gets recorded, and you can listen to it.
Oh, we actually record it. We do record it, you know, and we have the footnotes and every agenda and our notices as well, that the public comment will precede the board meeting, which is not as part of the board meeting, but we can put it.
So it's attached to the minutes, so that it's forever there, like when
Yes,
the recording is gone?
Not in the minutes, it's not in the minutes, but it is in the recording.
But it's not required.
Can I just, for just an example though, for recording purposes and things like that, like, and just an example, like, how often we hear like, oh, the Girl Scouts are gonna be selling their cookies, that needs to be recorded in the public record, in the record of the minutes, like that. Like, that's why I think this is it's not official business that the Girl Scouts are selling cookies. Like, it should be a separate entity in itself.
As long as it's recorded and maybe there's some kind of attachment to the minutes or something where it's transcribed, so that when people come and make their feelings known about a particular project or thing, it's down somewhere on the record that the public came and made these particular comments.
I think it's a reasonable request. I don't know how you attach it, right? So I'm with you. We're not gonna change the structure of the meeting, but it would be nice to say that 5 people of the public came and this is the questions that they raised, or if they raised that they're selling cookies, I think it's fine to say that someone from the public came and said they want to sell
But I
cookies.
think Lana just said it gets transcribed, right?
Yes, we
It does.
get
It
transcribed.
does.
We don't put it in minutes, but we have the full
We do.
transcript of the entire meeting,
Could we-
plus public session.
Could we make it as an attachment to the minutes?
I don't know.
I don't know how, otherwise
Yes,
I think it
I
could
just
get
wanna-
lost in the ethers.
I just want to, we can look at this and
Okay, yeah.
and discuss
But
it with
just,
our.
you understand the point I'm
With
trying
our
to make.
outside counsel, but legislative declaration of open meetings law states that it's essential to the maintenance of a democratic society that the public business be performed in an open and public manner, and that the citizens of this state be fully aware and be able to observe the performance of public officials and attend and listen to the deliberations and decisions that go into the making of public policy. So that, the right of the public is observe and listen. So it doesn't mean we cannot invite public to participate, but it's not a part of the, public meeting as defined in open meetings law. So we can.
Yeah, my only point is, whenever there's something that goes on in the city, they have public hearings, people come, they talk, they make their statements, it all goes on the record, you can read all of that, you know what everybody's point of view
Right,
is.
that's a
We
hearing,
don't have
that's
that
a formal
in here.
hearing.
Right,
And
and I'm saying we
that-
don't have the equivalent of a formal hearing
Right,
here.
right,
And that's
right,
what
right.
I like, and if this is the right place, I'm fine with that. If there's some place we can do
Yeah,
it.
but that's not the intention of the speak up session, it's not a hearing.
It's not?
It's not a formal hearing, no, it's not.
Yeah, because we're not elected officials, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
confusion what.
I mean, you're not, like,
There's confusion on the part of the public as to when they get to say anything and get heard. We
It-
know
it
it's
invited
bad enough we
people.
don't get it, and if they don't get a response, we get that. But I want them at least on record that they asked. I would love to have public hearings here.
Let's
but
table
that's
this
not
for a
another
minute,
thing.
because like, I don't really mind the mechanism. One thing that I know is just being on the board for a year, is that we've been very disrespectful to members of the community a lot of times throughout the year that I've been here. They would speak and then no one would answer them, and then we'd walk away. So if someone says that they're having a garbage issue, then we would just sit there quietly, move on as if there's no garbage issue and never bring it up again. We need to figure out a mechanism. If someone feels passionately enough to stand in front of the public, to speak about something that bothers them, that we follow up with them. And I don't know what the mechanism
Well,
is.
I mean, it's very common at meetings like that, but there's no exchange between the board
Right.
and the public.
Right.
But at committee meetings, is there an exchange?
sometimes,
Allow-
depends on the,
But in
on the
committee
chair.
meetings, I'm more.
No, that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I'm asking, because that would be a way to tell people
Yeah.
that they
I
want
think
to.
this is a conversation for another meeting.
Yeah, let's table it for now, but I think we all brought our point of views, and I think I agree with Margie just conceptually of figuring out a mechanism where, we're a public benefit corporation. I get it that the meeting is not intended to be the public participating in the meeting, but we need to provide some sort of mechanisms where we have, some level of responsiveness to the public and that whatever.
We used to have, before the board meeting, a thing called Conversations with the Board. And the board would casually sit there and people would come and we would
Right.
have conversations about what's coming up on the agenda and what do you think of it and
Mhm.
all that kind of thing. And there was a give and take. And that's different from get up and say your piece, but don't get a response. Because back then, they got a
So
response.
just commanding.
I just want
Right.
some way to open a conversation with the
All right,
public.
so let's figure that later, but we know that we
Okay.
need to figure out something. We don't know what it is, but I'm
Right.
sure you guys could come up with something.
Mhm.
Or the legal team that joins could help us figure out the right formula. So even, and it might be, by the way, to your point, Audrey, it might be that we add into committee meetings that are public, a public sessions, point where the public could participate and ask questions, and maybe the meeting takes place, and then as part of the meeting, the public could join in and ask questions officially, because I know that, I don't know what the mechanism is, but we just have to figure out a correct mechanism. Okay, continuing. So section 6, resolution to be in writing. So this was added by Lydia and myself. All resolutions proposed by the members shall be recorded in or attached to the journal of the proceeding of the authority, and we removed, I guess,
All proposed resolutions shall be presented in writing to the directors present, and upon its adoption, each resolution shall be copied in or attached to the minutes of the meeting.
and I would love not to go
Is that
into
what was
the
there
why
originally?
and let staff. Hmm?
That's what we're exactly doing. All our resolutions are in writing and they are all part of our minutes. It already exists.
Okay, but.
No, we deleted
And what's
that line.
No,
What's a journal of the proceedings?
Yes, there's no such thing as journal. We have minutes and resolutions.
Yeah, what is
are part of them. So it's just not the right
So,
language.
so the thought behind this was because in years past, what would happen is we didn't, or the board didn't necessarily need to have everything in writing before the board meeting. And so that ideas that would be brought up before the board and formulated at the board meetings would be wordsmithed by the legal counsel after the fact.
Right.
But it's basically, coming up with the concept of some change that needs to happen, coming up with a policy thoughts, and then legal would go back, fix it, and then, you vote on it, and then legal would fix it after the fact. Now, I don't know whether or not that was memorialized in previous bylaws, but that's what we would like to happen once again.
All the resolutions should be presented to the board before the meeting in writing for them to consider them.
Okay, that's what's now, we want to
Mhm.
change
And it's-
that.
Okay,
I don't
think
understand what you want to change it to. I'm not following. What do you want to change it to?
There were several meetings that I was at where we would talk about something, a specific subject would come up, and then we'd say,
And then you
okay,
will come up.
we need a
okay, I
resolution
understand
to
what you
whatever,
mean.
we would all
Yes.
agree in principle, and then you guys
Right.
would wordsmith it and do whatever, we would
Right.
vote on
Yes,
it,
this
there,
is
though.
also
And-
a possibility.
Yeah, so I think
Right.
that's what they're talking about,
Right.
an impromptu kind of thing that came up during, out of a resolution where it was changed, or just out of a subject.
Right.
Okay, we've got to do this, and we would say, okay, we agree in principle, you guys go back, put it in the right order.
You're almost sending it to resolution
Right.
draft.
Instead of waiting a whole
Right,
month
right.
for something
Yeah.
to come out and back on the board.
Basically make it official.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
codify it, another time.
And that's what.
Yeah, I feel like that's already kind of covered here in the fact that it would be attached to the minutes of the meeting in the original version.
I think what we're saying is that, because we've been through this, and I don't want to go into specific cases, that the whole board was in consensus that we want to do something, and then someone told us, well, we have to have it in writing. So then a month goes by and some external influences manage to change our resolution to never come through. So I feel like if the board or a majority of the board says or votes on something, that should then move to
Okay,
be ratified, even if those new
Let's
documents
have,
prepared.
outside counsel look at this one on how to appropriately draft that.
Sounds good. So I'm gonna have external account
I'll just confirm.
review.
Okay.
I'm just gonna call them CLM, right?
Yeah, yeah.
CLM review. Okay, good. Okay. So next,
Matter of vote.
So this is manner of voting. This was touched by, our advisory group. Let's just call it us, by the advisory group. Voting on all questions at the meeting shall be by roll call and, and the yeas and nays shall be entered into the minutes of such meeting, except votes deemed appropriate to be done in executive session as described by the open meeting law. A question or matter may be approved by the roll call or anonymous consent. In the event of an impromptu resolution at the meeting, an agreement in principle may be voted on with the exact legal wording following the meeting.
So there's no votes taken in executive session?
We confirmed it with the Committee of Open Governance that some matters are so sensitive that they cannot be done in public, and it should be voted on in executive session. But you guys could obviously go back to the Committee of Open Governance, but we already confirmed that with them.
I think the vote in executive session is possible, but it will still have, there won't be description of the matter which was discussed. It will
Of course.
be only the vote count.
Yeah, 100%. But
Right,
And the
and that's,
resolution is.
yeah,
and I
right,
So
and that's,
will become.
I 100% agree with you, but the most critical thing is that even decisions that are made in executive session, according to the open meeting law, have to be voted on. And a majority needs to accept it and ratify it, and then the question is, what do you write into the transcripts later on?
I don't necessarily say it has to be voted, it may be voted on.
It has to be voted on. If you're doing something major,
It depends, it could be discussion only, if
no, if there is a vote, if there's a decision made that affects the public.
If there is a decision, then it should be a vote, but
Yeah.
it's not a must. It's a
So, no, yeah, of course.
it's
Let me
made.
be more accurate, because
can I just ask a clarifying thing here? So there are particular items that are permitted to be discussed and voted on in executive session, yes. Those items are discussed in executive session because of their sensitivity. I don't think having this requirement that the vote should be recorded in the minutes.
That's not what's written
that
here, but.
sensitivity, I don't think I'm just not comfortable with how that's portrayed here. Like, I don't think we should be recording what is happening in the executive session for those special items in the minutes. The minutes should say executive session was called, like we do now. But I don't know that the action on a sensitive item is supposed to be reflected that way.
I don't want to go
I
into
think
specifics.
that's an outside counsel kind of.
Megan, if I may, just for a sec, and I completely get your point of view. According to the open meeting law, any decisions that the board makes as a board must be voted on. Now, most things are voted in public because the public should be aware of what we govern about. But some things are so sensitive that it could never come up to the public, if it's like related to lawsuits, if it's related to items that
Right, those are the
obviously
things
aware.
we discuss in executive session, that's what I'm saying.
No, of course, let me just finish the sentence, Megan. Though, even those items, if the board makes a decision on them, and it's a decision of the board, a vote needs to be made. The vote could be a private vote, and it's acceptable, according to the open meeting law, to conduct a vote in executive session, even if it's not something that's going to be published to the public, because if it's an action that is done on behalf of the full board, it must have a majority vote, aka 5 board members saying, yay, we're going to do this thing, whatever it might be, even if it cannot go out into the public record. That's the
Wait, but
open
this
meeting
is
law.
saying it has to be entered into the minutes. I guess I think this is a wording thing. Your statement
I
says.
think that vote happened is enough to be said, like, I don't know, and
No,
I'll leave it to the.
If you scroll up a little then, scroll up a little
Yeah.
bit. This first sentence, and the yeas and nays shall be entered into the minutes of such meeting. I think we need
Yeah,
to
but
have
there-
council kind of craft this better.
Yeah, but there's a dot here, in the event of there's a dot here, a question but yeah, let's just leave it, let me just put your comment like you were saying, because I think we're all in agreement that, Megan, please refine the, edits here. Well, could you help me, Philip, what are we refining? That,
How executive session votes are reflected in.
Here it says what it says, minutes shall be taken at executive sessions of any action that is taken by formal vote, which shall consist of a record or summary of the final determination of such action and the date and the vote thereon, provided, however, that such summary need not include any matter which is not required to be made public by the Freedom of Information Law as added by Article 6 of this chapter. So it's section 106.2 of the Open Meetings Law.
106.2? Beautiful.
106.2.
Done. I added the comment in it. So we'll figure out that, but I fully agree with you, Megan, that a vote has to happen in executive session. That doesn't mean that we report exactly what we voted on. You guys will figure out the exact language.
I'm sure there's examples in other authorities, bylaws that we can, steal.
Yeah, it's good that we have we're on the same page. It sounds like we're just a matter of like figuring out the right language to make sure that it's appropriate. What is this? Arthur removed this, so this is a resolution without meeting. So according to the open meeting law, you have to have a meeting, if I'm not mistaken. I'm asking.
So we can't do this, yeah.
Yeah, so Arthur removed this because I guess it's not legal to have a resolution.
Absolutely redundant, it's crossed out, yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. Section 8, so this is added by Arthur, I believe. Open meeting law, so basically you're saying like follow the open meeting law.
Exactly, and by the way, I speak to Committee on Open Governance and asked them, do we need to be specific on open meetings law provision? And they said, that's fine, incorporate by reference. So whatever is in open meetings law, because there are certain sections that keep changing, for example, about video conferencing.
Right.
Whatever provisions we have regarding video conferencing, section 103, they will expire and will be repealed in 2025.
Right.
So it keeps changing. So
Right.
when we have this reference to the open meetings law,
It helps,
fine. Yes.
Right, that we don't keep changing our bylaws.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I know we added some language specific to video conference, and we have it in Better Park City bylaws. And I asked Committee on Open Governance, is it okay, we just keep this, or we need to elaborate on video conferencing? They said, that's fine, whatever you
Right.
have is fine. So I already confirmed this.
I think that's a part of it is that there's the law and then there's our mission statement. So part of it, I think, and Lydia is right, that we're a community that has a lot of people are with accessibility issues, but we want to make sure that we're accessible. And even if it's not literally written in the open meeting law saying that we will make sure that there's closed captions in our meeting, I think it's honorable, and I think that's, who would oppose having closed captions in meetings if we get it for free as part of Teams as well. Okay, so I'm continuing. Section 9, so designees. Okay, so this is probably a hot topic. So this is Arthur's edits, so I'm not touching them. This is just like some language editing. And this is an addition that I believe was with the full team of editors in the last few weeks. Any committee member may designate a board member to represent them at a committee meeting with the consent of the committee's chair. And part of this was we wanted to make sure that I know the chair has to be in agreement of. So, for example, when I tried to join on behalf of Dr. Milamed to Faye's meeting, and she was very upset about it, I think she has a right to say, no, I don't want you to be in my committee. She's the chair of the committee, so I feel like the chair of the committee should be able to say, with the approval of the member that's swapping. So we wanted to make sure that the chairs have the control of their meetings. The designated board member shall be notified of all committee meetings. Shall have the power to attend and vote in such meetings, and shall be considered towards the quorum required to fulfill the committee's objectives. So this is just like, it's kind of like straightforward, I believe, especially because we have committees of 4. Yeah.
How is the designee determined? And
by the chair of the committee.
No, I'm saying like, does the person requesting a designee have to put it in writing to the REAC staff? How do we know there is a designee? How does that person, how does the chair of that committee, are they just automatically added to the email group? Like, I think there's some, I feel like maybe the chair of the board should also be notified that this is happening.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. Notify the chair of the board. Yeah, okay, that all makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, it's some sort of record needs to be made that someone is designating someone to a committee on their behalf. And also, do they even need to be on that committee if they want a designee? Like, why are they having a designee? Is it an attendance issue, or is this an expertise
traveling
issue?
abroad and they don't have internet connection, or they're sick and they need someone to swab them for a few months. Yeah.
I don't think it's allowed by law. It's only ex officios it's only ex officios, two ex officios, a chair of the board, commissioner of housing and community renewal, and director of division of budget can appoint their designees.
But isn't that just
By
a board meeting?
by law, no,
That's
it's
board
only
meeting.
them, and it's done, that they signed letter stating that this person, like Megan Anderson, for example, designee for Commissioner of Wisnauskas, only ex officio has the right to have these designees or their official representatives. If the board member cannot attend the meeting, he cannot attend the meeting, so no one else is attending on his behalf or her behalf.
We're talking
And-
committees, not board
And
meetings.
committee,
talking
and
committee.
it's in general, so I suggest we run it by outside counsel.
Ben, you're saying it's another board member, it's not.
Yeah, another board member, yeah.
And on
Yeah,
the soul,
yeah.
if Conway has
Right.
expertise in something
Right.
that maybe,
Right,
in the real estate, you might say,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what, instead of me, maybe
Yeah,
you
yeah,
come
yeah.
and talk about.
100%.
Because, and also, we have established committees, and we have, some of the members are designated by chair of the board. It is not kind of, again, I would rather run it by outside counsel, because the law only allows to have designees for ex officios, and it's, in Battery Park City as well. Only, and board members themselves are not appointing resident board members. Cannot, I understand that you want to have it, that resident board members have designees just like ex officios, but it's not allowed by law. So I suggest outside
Could you
counsel.
could you please avoid
Yes.
the word not allowed by law, because not allowed by law says that there's a literal law that says you're not allowed to designate.
Yeah,
What the
okay.
reality is that we have enabling laws that define what we do, but there are no, as far as I'm aware, explicit laws that say that I cannot be swapped with another board member in the committee.
I think it's
Okay,
also,
so
you
let's
know,
have,
It might be great,
Let's have outside
and I'm
counsel.
happy for it to be outside counsel to review it. But one thing that also, yeah, I think it's good, let's hear outside counsel. and we
Which
can-
law would you reserve?
and just another point on this too, this is extremely inconsistent across other public authority boards, like they don't do this. The designees are ex officio, they're in statute, so let's have outside counsel review.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just asking law, which law you were citing.
yeah, I believe it's in our labor legislation, I double checked, but it's,
So we do a lot of things that are different from other.
yes, public authorities, we are part of public authorities law, we are Title 35 of public authorities law. I'm talking about section that applies to RIA.
No, I'm just saying, it's the other authorities, like in Battery Park City, they elect the chair of their board. Ours gets
Yes,
appointed by the
exactly.
governor,
That's-
so
that's
we're very different from them in
Yeah, absolutely,
a lot
well,
of things.
that's why we always need, when we draft the bylaws, the document, we should always compare this to
Right.
our enabling legislation, which is Title 35 of public authorities law.
Okay, then I would let's cite that, let's just do the heavy lifting for CLM, cite the statute that you just referred to. I'd recommend we strike
Which
it.
statutes?
Can you repeat the statute?
It's Title 35 of public authorities law, it's RIA.
A little bit slower, title.
Title 35, it's actually in the first section of our bylaws, that's exactly what we changed. Title 35, public authorities bylaws, it's RIA enabling legislation.
Done.
Yeah,
And-
we also know it as RIA Act. So I will double check myself to see whether there is, but I clearly remember seeing that it's only ex officios have the right to have their designees because of the nature of their work, because they're the commissioner
I don't
of housing and
disagree with
community.
At the board level, I agree, at the committee level, I don't
Right.
say it there, but maybe
We can, yeah.
I don't know enough
I suggest we
legally
just
to know
leave
if it
it
applies to
to outside counsel.
And I'm sure that CLM will come here and they'll have a very clear and everything,
Yeah, I
they wanna
understand
change
that for
it.
committees, we want to have more relaxed approach,
Right.
let's run it by.
100%, no one disagreed. Okay, anything else, or we could continue?
Continue.
Awesome. So this from 9 to 10, video conferencing, so this was added by, that was added by us, okay. So video conference, participation in meeting by video conference, notwithstanding anything else contained in these bylaws, but subject to the requirement of the Public Officers Law and procedures governing video conferencing, which may be adopted by the member from time to time. Any one or more members of the authority may participate in the meeting of the members by means of video conferencing equipment, allowing all persons participating in the meeting to see and hear each other at the same time, and participation by such means shall constitute presence in person at a meeting of the members. In the event of any member is present in the meeting by the members by means of conference telephone, such member may not speak, vote, or otherwise participate in the meeting, and his or her presence shall not constitute presence in person at the meeting of members for a quorum person. I honestly don't remember this one.
Yes, and it's actually something that I just mentioned, this section, and I was talking about this very section. So video conferencing is covered by, not
Public
only
authority.
by
Right.
open meetings law, meeting law, section 103. This
Right.
is first, this keeps changing. Second,
Right.
we adopted by resolution our own video conferencing guidelines, policy. So we did adopt, we have a separate policy covering this video conferencing. So
Oh,
there is no need even to mention this because we have a separate policy specifically for that, and I think we adopted it last September, perhaps. There is minor change that we need to add, and this change relates to people who attend the meeting, public meeting via video conference. Previously, they were not counted towards the quorum, but now if a member of the board is participating via video conferencing and due to his disability or her disability or their disability, this person is considered towards the quorum. That's exactly
Oh, yeah,
the question.
that was
I sent.
confirmed, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. I want to confirm,
Yeah,
is it 5 people
awesome.
or 4 people?
right.
So now, we need to make this minor change in our policy. So I suggest, because it's a part of open meetings law, and we already have a section
To
on
remove
open
it.
meetings law,
Take it out.
to remove it because it's
Okay.
redundant, and we have a separate policy.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We're all good with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
take it out.
And what is this? Why is that needed? Okay, so this is a question by Lydia about this paragraph. So a waiver of notice. So Lydia's asking, what does this mean? And I added +1, why is this needed? So notice of, waiver of notice, any director of the board may waive in a signed writing any notice of a meeting required to be given by these bylaws before or after such meeting. At such a meeting, if the director may present such meeting, the attendance of a director or representative to the board at any meeting shall constitute a waiver of notice such meeting by such director, except in case, I mean, in short, what is, like,
I don't even know, I don't think we ever use this. It's 4 pages in our bylaws, and
could we delete it? Is there?
I think.
I think you wanna keep it in there, 'cause
You wanna
we-
keep
we
it,
may-
it's for anybody, yeah, you know, you guys all changed the whole, like, the 3-day notice and the 10-day
Right.
written notice of agendas and meetings. This is, someone can say, I don't need that. I'm
It's like if there's like an
Schedule a meeting.
emergency meeting and you're like, oh, got it, okay.
So we never actually utilize, but it's language usually.
I see, so this is like, okay, emergency meeting, we might not have a notice that's long enough, and we can say, okay, I
Right.
waive that notice or
Yeah.
notice.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the thing.
You're good with that?
If you're at the meeting, you have clearly waived your objection that you didn't receive notice for the.
Yeah, no,
Right,
that
if you
makes
already,
sense.
yes.
So I'm deleting this thread
Thank
because, thread resolved, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I had no clue.
Yeah, me neither. It was just like, it was a weird one that I wasn't familiar with. Okay, so this was by our advisors with Lydia. So, this is just removing, okay, this is removing this section, I believe. So, this is, election term of office. Could you guys talk about it a bit? Like, why was it deleted? Do you remember?
I'll read it first.
Election. 'cause there's
I'll read it
election.
while you guys, refresh
Yeah,
it.
so this is appointment, right?
Appointment, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Four,
we
right?
have to take out the word
So
election.
the appointment of the chief executive officer, the chief vice president, and controller, internal control officer shall only be done by.
Oh, sorry, let me start there, yeah, I
Yeah.
apologize. So, yeah, okay, that's why, what didn't make sense, okay. I'll start from the beginning. So this one, we worked on all of it together. So the appointment of the chief executive officer, the 3 vice presidents, and the controller, internal controls officer shall only be done by a majority vote of the board by resolution. The 3 vice presidents of the corporation shall be chief financial officer, chief operations officer, and general counsel. All other appointments shall be made by the CEO without the board's direct involvement. The corporation shall not have any other vice president role without an amendment to these bylaws. The president shall appoint all other officers of the authority. And,
I'm sorry, who's the president?
I think we'd say the president and CEO is the same
CEO,
thing.
they're the same
Like, I don't know
thing.
why we have to, but,
Yeah, they get to be separate titles, but it's president CEO.
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
All right, so make that consistent.
Yeah,
CEO? Which one is,
CEO.
President slash
Yeah,
CEO.
whichever
Okay.
one you want,
yeah, and
it just needs to be the same.
yeah, okay.
Wait, hold on a second. What did you do?
Oh, I changed it to CEO from
There's
president.
a vice in front of there.
The title is really
CEO,
president
there's
and
vice
CEO,
CEO.
president slash.
It says
CEO.
vice CEO, what does that mean?
Right?
Vice
Where's-
CEO?
Yeah.
That's definitely not.
Oh.
This section needs to be cleaned up a little because there's.
Oh, yeah, vice president, sorry. Which one did you want me to replace? The president.
shall
Got it,
appoint
yeah,
the
okay.
president, CEO.
That's what happens when you edit lines, CEO, okay.
President slash CEO.
So you're removing the titles of secretary to the board and assistant secretary, but throughout the bylaws, it's referenced as a title, so there's gonna need to be some,
Oh, you're talking about the things that were deleted, right? Let me read them out.
yeah.
Yes,
But those titles are referred to previously in the document and further down, so you either need to add a secretary back or add some of
Yes.
this paragraph you've deleted back in.
So who's the secretary?
General counsel is the secretary to the
It's
board.
general
And the
counsel.
secretary,
In absence of general counsel, the next in line in legal department.
but my question is as it relates to appointments, do we appoint the secretary or that's
No,
just
it's by the
happens?
nature of
Right,
position.
right.
General counsel is typically the secretary to the board.
So why would that be needed here?
Because it needs to be memorialized, because the.
Yeah, because
Four times
the
of
secretary is referenced
Let's
in
read it
other
for a second,
sections
just
of
so
the
I,
document.
the officers of the corporation shall be the chairperson as provided in the act, the president and chief executive officer. Okay, so with that one, we agree. Chief financial, the secretary, the assistant secretary and the treasury controller, or,
Those titles are referred to in other places of this document.
yeah, they're not related to like appointments though, that's what I'm trying to understand.
But if you don't have one,
We don't appoint them though, the board doesn't appoint these
No,
roles.
it's not by appointment, it's just by nature of your work. It's typically legal department, it's typically general counsel who is performing secretary.
Oh, you're basically saying that you want the officers of the corporation to be the secretary and so forth? Because we're just saying that it's just these three.
No, what they're saying.
I think general counsel is performing duties of secretary to the board. That's what needs to be reflected here.
But not in appointments, that is probably.
Yeah, I don't think it's an appointment.
Right,
Yeah, it's two separate.
yeah, so it has nothing to do with appointments,
Yeah.
maybe, and I'll add a comment here, I don't really know exactly what the comment is, but,
It's gonna be tough to add
Put
it.
definition somewhere else that's appropriate.
What was, while you're doing that,
Please,
what was the motivation for changing this at all?
For the bylaws.
No, this language, like from treasury to striking to.
First of all, we never had any treasurer at TRIA. We have controller, we have CFO and controller, and when I looked. Yes, and actually I got confused here because I wasn't sure how we go about this treasurer in the corporation, because we are unlike Battery Park City, where we have different, like they issue bonds. We only have chief financial officer and controller, but who is performing treasurer functions? At RIAC, it was controller who was performing these functions. But here in bylaws, it says the CFO is treasurer, and we don't have any controller at all. I think we need to think about this section about offices a little bit, because
Yeah.
I'm sure myself.
and there's some complications with the, especially appointment.
I don't know what to write, I hear words, but I don't know what, I
This
don't know.
needs further discussion.
Make sure they're consistent.
So I wrote here, please put the correct definitions of the members' name that have been removed from this edit, and do you want to add anything else? Because I don't understand what else to add.
Then I think
I
for the,
need to define like the officer.
Titles need to be.
Yeah, it's just the
Structure.
officer. Yeah.
overall, this section needs further conversation.
Yes, exactly.
Sure, so then we'll have that conversation in the next meeting, I guess, once we,
But I think the important thing here
Yeah.
is that what you're saying is the board should have control over the appointment of certain officers
That's the
of the
major
corporation.
idea.
And that is
Board should have
an issue.
control over,
We need to
over
discuss
termination.
Yeah.
That's what you're
That's-
saying.
yeah, of the
As opposed to
appointment
Albany reaching
and
down and saying you're hired or
termination.
fired.
of the.
That needs to be discussed further.
that
Yes, it
have
does,
Been,
because that's the main point here, I think.
you want to discuss about it? Because we're in a
Yeah.
public meeting, it's the perfect time to discuss it.
But I think it's gonna be long, and I'm getting concerned that.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
coming on
so-
2:30, that's why I said, like, can we, can I also,
Let's-
The business of the governance committee.
Are we
let's,
doing the
if-
whole document today? I'm just,
We are, yes.
I
But could we do
I
a
have a hard
pause?
stop at 3:30.
Yeah, can you take
Okay,
a
so,
break?
okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a break. We'll take a 5-minute break.
I like that.
And then after that 5-minute break,
We'll switch.
we'll switch, so Mr. Gandhi can make a
And then we'll
presentation, and then we'll return.
I love it. Okay?
Okay.
5-minute
Okay,
break?
and just so you all know, I have a hard stop at 3:30, so
No worries.
Can't
I think
do
we're gonna
4 hours
continue until 5
meeting.
probably, whoever wants to remain or could remain.
Cross-board meeting.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm gonna wait for the table to get seated again, but because we are still recording,
Mhm.
we have one new person at the table, so please introduce yourself, David.
Dave Stone, editor and publisher of the Roseanne.
And so we have a second member of our local press here, so thank you very much for being here, appreciate that. Okay, so we have a couple more people that are being seated. We're just gonna close the door. Next time I'm gonna have to ask for a case of water.
I did
You did?
ask them to bring a case.
Oh,
So let me
thank you.
check on it. It should have been here.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And I have my, dark chocolate coconut and so if anybody wants one, please. I've had half a dozen already, so I have to stop.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Okay,
We could always put it back up once we're done. Okay.
so are you passing on anything, or are you just talking?
We're gonna be talking.
Are we
Okay.
waiting for the member?
Yes, we
I
are.
brought in,
Yeah, he brought everything, but I'll help with the
Okay,
back
thank
and
you
forth.
very much. So for this particular
Mr.
section,
Expo, I have the second set of documents,
Okay.
so for this particular section, we are going to shoot ahead in our agenda for, Dr. Gandhi's presentation, and we really appreciate that you're here. And the specific, purpose for him being here is to inform us of, his experience so that we can use it to, improve our policy.
Yeah.
And that's all we're gonna be doing. He is kindly agreed to come and share with us his experience and what we want to do with, that information, if we want to use it to improve our policymaking, decisions going forward, okay? And I know that he sent 110 documents and then
Well, there were
had actually
two pages.
reviewed
First
them.
page is about 40 pages, and the second one is about 111.
In the beginning, he eased me in. He started with a couple of documents and then we moved on from it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready whenever we could start.
Can we wait for?
I told her.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we want to wait a couple of minutes for Mary to come? Is that what you're doing?
She should be here, Miss Cunin, right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wait a couple of minutes for Mary to come?
All right.
Okay.
Is it being recorded now?
It is.
It's being recorded, we haven't stopped recording, everything's recorded.
Yeah, yeah.
For the break?
Everything's
Even for
recorded.
the break, everything was recorded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't have editing, capabilities, so if, someone needs to edit it, they'll edit it. Okay, so, I want to start off by recognizing Dr. Gandhi, and I think like one of the things that we've done really badly is just from the jump, I know how incredibly talented and incredible career you have, and I know that currently you're retired. Now, I cannot speak on behalf of the whole board, but just from reading all the documents, I want to personally apologize for the level of engagement you had with REAC for multiple years. I don't think we could fix it because that already happened. Our focus right now is going to be to understand where those weak spots were, which are very evident if you read the 110 documents, and figure out what could we do as an organization to make sure we're better for the communities that we serve. Do you want to like introduce yourself to the?
Yes, I can. Good afternoon, thank you for inviting me. My name is Kirti Gandhi. Of course, the name is Gandhi, so I'm from India, and I've been living in this United States since 61 years. In 2 months, I'll be 83. I got my bachelor's degree from India. engineering, and I came and joined RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York. I did my master's and came to work, started my career in designing interstate bridges in 1964. RPI invited back me for my PhD program. I went back again and did my PhD and MBA at RPI. I also taught 4 years at RPI, engineering and architecture students, strength of material course and strength of materials laboratory. I also had a draft card. Vietnam War was going on, and instead of, I just brought in the card, so that.
That's okay.
It's a historic document,
Yeah.
And I didn't have a bones part to say that I don't want to go to Vietnam, Anyway, I did work for about 5.5 years for the U.S. Army Research and Development Command on research and development of explosive safety. And, and then I got in 75 in New York City, got unemployed, and I decided that it was about time to start, with wife and 2 kids and no raise in 3 years. It's an immigrant story anyway, so at God's grace and hard work, we succeeded. And I and my wife started from, our kitchen table in 1975, and we're still married almost 55 years after.
Wow.
And
That's the record.
Yeah.
And let me put it this way, she was the Gandhi, I was the engineer. Should leave no doubt about anybody's mind,
So let me jump right in, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
So I think, and I'm not going to read through the whole 110 pages or go through the whole history, but I want to kind of touch on some critical points that were very evident in the engagement that followed through a lot of years. So one is Margie was actually on the board when you were engaged and signed a contract with RIAC, which was then presented to Margie. I don't know if you remember that.
I
that
remember
day.
it well.
So it was in 2013. And the board was presented, by the way, this is public record, so I'm not saying anything that is not public. Public record in front of Margie, in front of the board members at the time, which were stated in the new business item 3, I believe. It states, and I just want to read it out very quickly. And even before I read it out, one of the biggest points of contention between Dr. Gandhi and RIAC team members, and there were a lot of them throughout the years, there were a few points. One that was a very critical one, Dr. Gandhi kept saying that the contract that he has is for time and material. It's not a project-based. And RIAC kept iterating and telling him, no, this is project-based, and you have a contract, and you have to pursue it. The big picture, that was the rationale, and I wouldn't have my own point of view if I didn't read RIAC's literal language. So the RFP did not include construction oversight services because a realistic number would be impossible to determine prior to the corrective design and construction scope. I'm recommending that the board approve the GE contract of $212,000 plus a significant contingency of $88,000 to include possible construction oversight services, bringing the total authorized to $300,000. So I just want to just make sure that RIAC wrote this.
I mean, what individual was that?
It's a good question.
Sharon,
And,
Steve Sharon is former
Steve.
CFO.
okay, in
Steve Sharon is-
May 30th, 2013. So I just wanted to be clear that I accept your claim. I don't even have to an argument of it because literally our notes say that we're hiring you to build a design, followed by construction, but because we know the construction will be costly.
I also brought in the RFP, which clearly states.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement.
I'm just
No one-
saying, I brought in the, and just
Yeah.
to answer your question, they clearly stated it's a time and material anyway.
And I wanted to make sure that on the record, I read all the materials you sent me and the materials that are public, and they completely confirm with what you're saying, that maybe the contract base was the initial scope of the design, but once we moved into construction, they didn't even know how to guesstimate it in 2013. They put a hold for $88,000, but they said it's going to be significant. And just without going into every single step in time, then we did nothing for 3 years. Then it woke up again, and Dr. Gandhi very legitimately said, costs changed. It's been 3 years, and my employees cost me more, the material costs more. The actual property itself has been degraded further, and we need to review the area again and make sure. So very legitimately, Dr. Gandhi said, well, I need more funds to be able to execute on this project, which were then approved a few times because this project was stopped and started, stopped and started a few times. So even before we go further into this, there's clearly an issue here. There's a clear issue of like, how could it be that the contractor, who is well-known in the industry, has a contract that literally says that the actual construction period is going to be for time and material, and they can't even estimate how much it's going to be. Years go by, costs change, and then we're surprised. So I think we have to figure out in our procurement policy or something in the scope to say we need to make sure that we respect our vendors. At the end of the day, if we have a vendor, then we promise them, we have a contract with them that says it's going to be materials and time, and then 3 years go by, and what do we do? So like one recommendation that we didn't get to it today, that Lydia and I talked about and added into our procurement policy, is just a recommendation that says, if a year passed since the contract was signed and literally nothing was done on it, then we should probably have the board re-ratify it if there needs to be updates in prices or updates in materials or updates in whatnot. And if it's been more than, I think we said 2 years, then it really should just start a new RFP altogether. Because if you don't do something for 2 years, that doesn't seem relevant anymore, and you really need to go back and rebuild your contract, which I think is an appropriate, just like big picture solution just from seeing this, what happened here, pauses for 2 years, pauses for 3 years, then there's confusion because we had a lot of team members replaced, so every time Dr. Gandhi or his team sent an email, there would be someone else in the team.
The name of all these people here, there were a dozen people moved out, all the technically competent engineers, licensed architects and engineers.
And my recollection was there were quite a few change orders along the way that were all approved.
Yes.
About four change orders, but again, one was for the traffic
One was for-
counts and
right.
the other,
Did you say 40 or 4?
Four.
Oh, okay.
Technically, there's five, because there's one for like $1 or something, so.
Okay.
So what is the actual issue? How much money are we talking? Is it the issue?
Well, we're not gonna talk money right
Oh,
now.
okay.
So right now, we just wanna go with policy.
Right.
What we
Right.
need to do, what we need to understand from what happened to you, so we can go forth and improve policy, so that doesn't happen again. That's what our objective for this meeting is.
Right.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. And I think that obviously one of the challenges are if you have a contract and then nothing happens with it for 3 years.
I'm sorry, the contract was to do what?
Oh, sorry, could you talk a bit about what you were hired to do?
Contract was to complete in 6 months, and I gave this.
Could you talk about what the contract was
Yeah.
for?
Or the helix. What was the focus of the
The
work?
helix was the problem,
Yeah,
and it's a 2-level helix,
Yeah,
it's a bridge.
right.
And we were supposed to investigate, inspection was done in 2010. The proposal, the report was written by Leroy, LIRO, in 2011. Gandhi was invited, dozen other companies, it was a public notice, which is like this. I brought in the public notice,
Yeah.
So it was in 2013, and they had all the the rating system and how to evaluate proposal, 110 points. I have, page number 2, if you look at one page,
Right. But you weren't doing the actual construction work, you
No,
were
this was
already.
strictly in 6 months, we had to do a whole thing, prepare, investigate, physical investigation of the ramp, and do the prepare contract drawings, invite bids.
Design work. Lero doing.
and-
Wait, can I?
I'm sorry, sir.
Can we get someone to mute the line, whoever's on the phone? We're getting some feedback here.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I could mute
Okay, thank you.
No.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
Did I mute them?
Somebody muted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, please continue.
So the original contract signed was, August, and we were supposed to do by February 1 of 2014.
Could I was like an IT team, could you figure out where the noise is coming from and mute them? Could someone go out with IT, they're in the other room. I don't have control over it, it looks like, or I can't seem to figure out how to mute them.
Maybe they can do themselves.
That would be.
That's what we were looking at.
Yeah.
Muting.
Ben, you just muted yourself.
Can you hear me now?
We muted
Now I can hear
ourselves.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, now you're
Yeah, 'cause
muted
someone
again.
called- Am I?
Thank you.
Now you're not, you're good now.
Okay, good.
This is
What's the
original
RFP that
schedule
is out there?
dictated by Rio to Gandhi.
Got it.
But here the
Yeah.
the tent and gorilla here is the Cornell University, which is not sitting around the table. Everything was dictated by the program of the Cornell University. We were told, and I think I have the notes and everything else, that by 2014, they had a building 7, 8, and 9 that were going up, and they had to be done, all these things, so work had to be done before 2014, and we were forced to do everything before 2014. The question came in, we worked and we delivered all the contract documents, but there was no construction contract was awarded in 2014. They put Gandhi's drawings on the shelf, whatever contract drawing, even we got a question from the contractor, Gandhi clarified what is this, what is that, and we answered those questions, as I have in this, handout. Somehow the cancellation by Cornell, or whatever their plans changed, and the plans are put on the shelf. Then we got a call in December of 2016 again, and I responded, they said, Cornell is again ready to get started. This is again in December 12, I got a, call and email from Miss Mitchell Edwards, and says that the Helix Ramp project is being reactivated and Gandhi should hear from RIOC, RIOC on near future.
Right, so in short, just keeping our conversations going, I'm going to try to paraphrase what you said. I'm not a professional. Correct me if I'm saying it incorrect. So Gandhi was hired to do two things. One is to come up with the schema designs for the ramp work, and then to be oversight of the construction that would take place thereafter. But the initial bid captured the cost of the initial design, but they didn't capture the cost of the contracting, of the oversight of the contracting. That was left open because there was no clarity over how much it would completely cost. They were put aside $88,000, but it was written in the memorandum that we're expecting it to probably be substantial. A lot of years go by and the project starts and stops multiple times. We could go into why it started and stopped multiple times, but it started and stopped multiple times, which obviously incurred multiple new costs. Those costs were authorized a few times, but then towards the end, RIAC decided that they're not authorizing it anymore. And the main perspective from RIAC was, we're not going to authorize it because we have a fixed price contract. It's not a time and materials. We already established that it is a times and materials contract. Fair?
The contract says not to exceed, the contract itself.
Not to exceed, that was from
Only
2013.
for certain specified job, okay?
But that's the language in the contract, not to exceed.
But the language of the contract is problematic because it doesn't capture like 8 years.
Miss, can I explain to you? Okay, I'm 60 years in construction industry, okay? You have to know, we had a 6th Avenue job in Manhattan from West 4th Street to West 59th Street. The digging started, they found out the foundation of the elevated train that ran on 6th Avenue. It was $39 million contract over a 3-year period. Then they decided the water main was not sufficiently lined. Water lines were too small, whatever the 18 inches, they wanted to increase to 36 inches water main. They had to dig it up. They had to remove all the footings of the foundations of the elevated trains that were ran on 6th Avenue. And also when we came into 57th Street, there was an underwater stream, and that was going on underground stream that was washing the foundation of the subway system. All these things, the contract was extended for 6 years, and the amount of the contract became from $39 million to $80 million. Instead of 3 years, it became 6 years contract. In construction industry in New York City, when you dig up, there is no such thing as a known item. There is 140 years or 50 years of structures are still lying underneath so what this not to exceed price means is, when we said 80 hours, that's it. If we design something and it costs me 90 hours, that's a different story. But when the scope changes completely, then it's a time and material issues, okay?
That's what I wondered about the scope of
And
work.
I have been in,
Saying
as I
with
said,
a new contract.
Gandhi has done $1.6 billion worth of projects in New York City. I have not yet done a single job which is on a lump sum on a construction inspection project, because we do not dictate the construction time. It's the contractor. If there is a strike, if there is this, there is a problem, the time does exceed, and then we have to spend time to make sure the job, we close the contract. I mean, our loyalty is to the client, which is, in this case, a REOC, basically. And we stayed with the job. I mean, we dealt with what I would call a suspected corrupt person in the, REOC.
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay,
I just
I'm
wanted, no, not at all. I just wanted, because we're not gonna resolve every single aspect right now, but I just want to state, as a board member who read all the documents, that to me it's clear that it is a times and materials contract. To me, it's clear. I might be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. From the 110 documents that I read, to me, that is clear. But I wanted to talk kind of like a few kind of general questions just to get to know your personality also. Initially, when I don't like spending money, and whenever someone says I owe them $200,000, my first question is why, and why did you only tell me about this now? And one of the stuff that I learned, and just from looking at your documents, you asked for this fund before you even did the work. You asked for it in a month, and then another month, and another month, and no one answered you. So, but you felt that you had to complete the job, and you weren't just gonna leave, because, could you talk about that, just that last 4 months, because we're talking about the last 4 months where...
Here's the thing. And again, as I said, we have done $1.6 billion worth of projects in New York City, with 39 public agencies over a 45-year period. And one of the thing is, if there is let's say the contractor was cutting corners, I mean, and we have documentation to prove.
We're gonna talk about that as well.
Plenty of documentation. He was doing demolition, concrete demolitions, and this chips flying. If some pedestrian gets hurt, everybody gets sued. Doesn't matter who is at fault, I mean, that's just in New York City. I mean, everything anyone in sight gets sued.
Yep.
So my job is make sure that whether I get paid or not, I want to make sure that we avoid a lawsuit, making sure, and also every agency in New York City.
Could I touch an example of that before, just to make it a dialogue?
Go ahead.
I recall reading that one of the contractors that were assigned, and we'll talk about the issues with that in a second, SCS was, as part of their contract, we're supposed to have a flag person on the ground, making sure that we're protecting pedestrians and making sure that we're protecting traffic. And then you guys were informed, and I guess because you have people on the ground, that they don't have flag people there, even though their contract specifically says that they should have it there at all times. Could you talk about that scenario?
Well, what happens is the problem, and again, Gandhi, I gave you documentation that in every single job that Gandhi did for another Department of Design and Construction, which is a $2 billion worth of project. I mean, they have a budget of $2 billion a year. Even smallest job, they assign 3 people, resident engineer, inspector, and office engineer. Because one person can only be at one time at any given point, Well, there are two levels. If the contractor is working on one level, my resident engineer could be only at one place. Also, there are tendency on the contractor to change the quality of work from low price to high price item. For example, if he excavates only the soil, and he classifies this as an excavation of concrete, which is a 5 times more price. How am I person who is only going to be at one place going to find out what the actual excavation was done? You need 2 guys to hold a second tape, zero end of the tape. You can't just get a one end of person to measurements of how many cubic yard or how many square feet of work that contractor did. And Gandhi was prevented by not allowing Gandhi's manpower to just with one person. I mean, again, it was humiliating for me to deal with somebody, who knew nothing about construction. He was not honest, to be honest, in my judgment. And I suspected he was getting a kickback from the contractor, because he was the lowest price. And also the weight that was given was 40% was given to the price. The selection, I gave my selection criteria for consulting engineers. The criteria selected by REOC was 40% on the price.
this guy, we did not even name this guy, he was not even present when we had what they call inspect field site visit.
Yeah, let's go into that for a second, so, cause we're jumping around a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, if you could try to stay with my, cause I have like a narrative here and I'm trying to like make sure that everyone is, no, please don't. And I apologize that I'm gonna jump in.
No problem.
But let's go there, for already you're talking about that, and I'm kind of like going a little bit all over. But, so, we established that, there was, I'm just trying to do a quick recap. You were hired to do the design work for the Helix, and then provide, construction oversight services through the duration of the contract. The contract itself started, stopped. There were a few issues that caused the contract to go on, further. That we're aware. As part of the work, you were also requested to provide recommendations for the actual contractors. And you provide, I think, a list of 5, recommendations.
Yes. As I said, Gandhi has
Yeah.
done plenty of work with multiple agencies.
And those, if I may,
I'm sorry,
unless
go
you're trying to correct me, those five contractors then came to the ground to see what work is going to be done. They put in an offer, but then you find out that CSC was. SCS was involved. Were you consulted if to add them in or not add them in that process?
No, what I'm just saying is SCS price was almost $800,000 or $900,000 lower than the next guy.
Right.
Okay, and.
So, but just to hone in on it, so you weren't part of the recommendation, you never recommended
We
SCS?
had never heard this company, SGS, that submitted its bid on it. However, I learned through the grapevine that he had worked on a Rio project with Mr. Stephen Noon.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought him in practically inside, so he was not there. And he was not present at the site visit when we visited all the invited contractors. And I asked each one of them, have you done work in a winter? Concreting, it's a specialized, because in winter months, there are no concrete plants usually open unless, some bigger ones. And you need to put a concrete, you have to heat it up, you got to put a blankets at night time when the weather freezes, and it costs extra. We had asked that conventional concrete costs, let's say $100, the latex modified concrete, which we specified, costs twice as much.
If I could, Dr. Gandhi,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Please don't, sorry.
I'm having very difficult time understanding what is happening here. So, let me go back to the very beginning.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
In 2010.
Right.
There was a project commissioned and RFP'd about the Helix.
There was an inspection done in 2010.
Okay.
Report was prepared by Lero in 2011.
And then you were a bidder.
Gandhi was invited with any dozen other companies in 2013.
Sure. And then in 2013.
Gandhi was still among a dozen companies, Gandhi was selected.
You were selected. And then you signed a contract in 2013.
Correct.
Architecture and engineering panel. So Gandhi Engineering were originally selected by the RFP for architecture engineering panel, and there were several engineering firms.
Okay.
And for this specific job, Helix, Gandhi Engineering was selected, but they were already part of our architecture and engineering panel.
And that
So this
particular.
is kind of a mini bid that they received for this specific test.
Okay, and that 2013 contract, I think you had mentioned earlier, was for $200,000.
I have the number.
$244,000.
Okay.
And that was for 6 months. The schedule was to complete by 2014, February 1.
Okay. And what happened on that contract?
We prepared the drawings, we delivered the final contract drawings. The drawings were advertised even, and one of the contractor, Maracap, he asked questions to Roosevelt Island about clarification about the drawings prepared by Gandhi.
Okay.
We even responded to the drawings prepared by Gandhi up to 2014. That's when, and then the Roosevelt Rio did not award the contract because Cornell was not ready to do the construction work on the campus.
So you did your piece, but then we didn't go ahead with
Did
the
you
second
get
piece.
paid as a-
Rio did not award the construction contract to any contractor
Right.
because Cornell was not ready to go ahead,
Did you
proceed.
get paid for this part
Yeah,
of the
for the
contract?
work, whatever
Okay.
we did, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
No
It's out of the way.
Okay.
So far, so good.
So far, so
So
good.
far, so okay. All right.
So- Now, after 2014.
But those designs, I think, were left on a shelf for like
For 3
2.5
years, right.
years.
So now
Right.
2016
So they
arrives.
revisit in December.
Cornell is.
It reaches to 2016. We don't create,
2016, I got a call from, you
Right.
know, the Rio.
let me, if you don't mind, let me just, because I narrate it, because it's very confusing. Okay, so 2016, not to me, but I know for everyone else. 2016, the contract gets reemerged. REAC says, we want to do this project. We don't issue a new contract or a new RFP for the task of oversight of the construction, but we call you and say, we need you to do the oversight for this contract that you had 3 years ago. You then come back and say that you need some more adjustments to.
No, let me put it this way. They said the work, we have to redesign, so the contract must be designed, the construction season starts in April.
Mhm.
Spring, whatever you want to call that.
Spring 2016.
Spring 2017.
Okay,
Mhm.
spring 2017.
Okay, so we were asked to prepare the drawings so that the contractor can do work in 4 months in winter. Usually winter is not the construction season. I mean, normally it's known. So we have to prepare special specifications because most of the concrete plants which provide concrete on the construction jobs, some of the smaller plants are not open, because it's a seasonal, there is not much enough business for them. So we made sure that the contractor that came in, understood that the work had to be done in winter. The concrete that had to be poured needed special protection, heating, blankets at nighttime, everything
Get
else.
all the diligence
All the
required
things so
to
that the
proceed with the
quality,
contract.
so that the quality of work is acceptable and durable for next
Right.
20, 15, 25 years, anyway.
And then did we
And-
execute another contract in 2017?
Well, I think what happened was.
It was just change orders.
It was change orders.
Then we got a change order.
Change order to the 2013 contract?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
First was about $13,000 or $15,000 that we said we need to do re-inspection of the contract.
And that was the first change order.
That was the first change order.
Thank you for that.
And then we realized that we had to update our drawings because whatever the drawing prepared in 2013.
Sure, things have changed.
Had changed. So I think we had requested about one for the, specification, one to the other thing. So second change order was issued for $99,000 approximately.
Mhm.
Correct.
Yep.
And then I think they also wanted to get the traffic counts here in the island, so we had to hire another traffic consultant. So that was about 19,500 or something like that.
Yes.
That was the third change order?
A third or fourth, I
That, I
don't
think
know.
that's.
Yeah, they were in parallel more or
Yeah.
less, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
One after each other.
Then there
The
was-
19,000 was in,
That was
425,
calculating the.
and 99 was 612, so this
Okay.
is all 2018.
So anyway, whatever the thing was,
Yes.
And could you walk through each of them? So there was a change order, initially, you had to update the drawings, and there was one to do the traffic issue. And as each of these was presented to Roosevelt Island, can you describe what happened?
yeah, and we calculated how much money was left. Let's say we came out with 100, I'm rounding the number, 100,000. So we said $32,000 is still saving, we have it. So we only asked for $68,000 basically. I mean, even though the change order was for $100,000, we calculated how much money we already had it in our,
That was for all the change orders, or that was just one?
each and every, I think I
Yeah,
highlighted
yeah,
it. We gave credit for every change order, that whatever amount we had it.
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
so, I mean, again, as I said, so we worked with very closely. At that time, the people we were doing, working at Rio was licensed engineers and architects, we were talking the same language. We had no issue about,
Sure.
Also, there's one more thing I have to say, is the liquidated damage clause. This is very special thing in construction industry.
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Okay, now they don't like to use the word liquidated damage, so they call it incentive, disincentive clause. Under liquidated damage clause, you specify an amount that if your contractor completes, let's say, construction X number of days before the specified date, for every day he gets $200 or $300 incentive.
Mhm.
And if he delays this thing, he
Yeah.
spends more than he has to pay back to the
Right.
agency X number of dollars.
To get the job done.
Now, we had specified, and I was involved in this, we had specified $200 liquidated damage or disincentive clause. Mr. Sergio Flores, he was a licensed engineer, he says, no, I think we would like to increase it to $1,000 per day in liquidated damage or disincentive clause. And it was REOC that changed the disincentive clause from $200 that Gandhi has specified to $1,000 a day.
Someone at RIA.
At
decided
Rio,
to up the rate.
Sergio Flores, I think I have my notes or someplace here. And,
And so we made that, REOC made that change
Yes,
with
sir.
the general contractor.
no, it's in the contract that goes out for bidding.
Oh, I see, we included that as a bid. That
Uh,
was.
As part of the RFP, right?
You have to send out public notice to all the contractors.
Correct.
The REOC asked Gandhi, how many contracts, so we gave 5 or 6 names of the contractors that Gandhi had worked in the past, and Gandhi was very comfortable recommending them.
Okay, I just have a question
Yes,
that has
ma'am.
to do with process more for the REAC people here.
Yeah.
In terms of procurement, all of these change orders are 19,000, 30,000. So the board does not have to, nothing has to go to the board.
It depends on how much,
Okay.
and if it's
Depends
been
on-
for
Okay,
time.
that was just, thank you, point of information.
Yeah.
It does, but like, did you get invited to speak with board members throughout that period of time from 2016 throughout? Right.
No, sir.
So all these change orders, the board never asked for you to appear before the board or in front of a committee?
No, sir.
I think they were below the limit.
They were all below the limit. They had to
Exactly.
change orders. You had
Yeah.
4, but Drew is now saying you
No,
can
no,
five.
it went to
change
the
order,
board,
not
it
to the
means that
original.
we're not below the limit.
I get it.
They were.
No, it came to the board to vote on,
I
but he
don't
didn't
know what the
appear in front
limit
of
at
the board.
that time was, if it was 175
It
or
was
was it
50.
50?
No, it's
Right.
irrelevant, if it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason the original one,
Give it a highlight.
I get, if I'm a
5,000 or
contractor,
10,000,
then-
it goes to the board.
Yeah, it,
Okay, so
it depends on the original size of the contract.
Yes, exactly, that's what Mark
It's-
said,
Okay.
that's exactly the case.
Yeah, depends
So
on the original
So
size
let
of
me
the
go back to my
contract.
Q&A, but now that we established the base story,
Originally, what was meant to be done, completed, sign off on 120 calendar days, what
was
the
4 years.
language is consecutive calendar days, that's a CCD, that's the technical language. Includes Saturdays, Sundays, so consecutive calendar days, it's not the working days, but
Okay.
continuous
Amendment.
calendar days. And he had to be working in 120 calendar days to complete the job, that was the original proposal. And he comes out, like I said, $900,000 cheaper than the next guy, and we started the problem. Can I start in my description, the very first day of the experience?
I actually would rather not, I'd rather go through linearly, because if not, we'll never get to what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
So, I want to go to, I'm gonna literally state a date, and I'm gonna read out your timeline. So we're in that stage, we had a change order authorized for the Helix year, we're now in 2018. You guys request for approximately $197,000 for resident engineer and support services. That's in January 10th, 2018. And you're getting pushback, right? So first,
Yes.
on January 11th, Mr. Nguyen responds by challenging the request for 2,080 work hours versus his projection of 900 hours. I would love for you to kind of like explain, like, for non-construction people, how could there be such a massive gap? So Mr. Nguyen thinks that there should be 2,080 work hours for the project, and you think that it should be 2,080, but then Mr. Nguyen says, no, it actually should be only 900 hours. Could you help recognize that, like, how did he even get to that number, do you?
Again, as I said, I can do it in my sleep probably, you know, I mean, I'm not bragging about it, but, you know, as I said, we take 2,080 hours per year, and the way I calculated was 4 months for construction inspection and 1 month for closeout, that's conventional.
Mm-hmm.
And during the construction, we are also supposed to answer, they call RFI, request for information, where the contractor says, Gandhi, I don't understand this drawing, or can you clarify about this dimension or something? So they call RFI, request for information.
So let me just add, so January 30th, Martin from your team responds to REACT and says that the RAI were wild guesses since the scope of the project was not fully defined. The addition of the plaza, so then the plaza was added into the
Flat plaza was
construction.
added, you know, flat plaza area was in into the contract.
And the time that has passed increased the cost. At this time, GE believes that a full-time RE stands for
No, resident engineer.
resident engineer, an inspector should be budgeted for, including escalating rates. But then you have like I would say, I don't know what happened in that window of time, so between January 30th, 2018 to February 9th, you have a phone call or someone has a conversation internally with REAC, and you modify your change order from 197,000 to 63,000. So what I wrote myself is GE modified the change order request to approximately 63,000 by reducing the construction support service from 3% to 1.5%. It was then signed off around February 26th, though there was no date for the president's sign-off, which occurred on or around March 14th. So it looked like that you asked for a change order for about 200,000 because you thought that's the right amount that would be needed for the work. REAC says no. You probably, I don't know, could you fill me on that gap of what happens in between then where you come back with a change order of 63,000 instead of the 200?
Well, again, I was not involved. Marty Goldberger, he was our project manager from beginning to the end. I mean, all 7 years, he was started in 2013 until he was, project was closed out in 2019 or so. But our issue was to work with the agency rather than not, walk out or something like that, so we started and we had to do whatever needed to do to protect the interest and not to get a lawsuit on our hand and then, get ourselves tied in a lawsuit. So also, again, I've been too long in this construction industry. It was to the benefit of Mr. Noon, to have no inspections, so the contractor had a free hand in cutting corners and, safety, all these things.
Was Mr. Noon an engineer?
He was a landscape architect.
Right. Did we have any engineers on staff at that period of time?
There was nobody, as I said, I have all these dozen names. He was the last guy. And he again.
Unfortunately, by the way, I just want to continue through the narrative. So, and this is for us to review later. I don't know how could we tell a contractor you don't need a structural engineer, or how could we tell them you don't need an inspector when we don't have any structural engineers in our staff? It seems, I don't know, and I know that Lero Group is our, what's it called? They're our owner's rep. 2018, were they our owner's rep?
Yeah, they were.
They have the engineer.
Do they provide the engineering capabilities and recommendations and so forth? I'm asking, because they were in a contract with us. 2018, they were under contract with us, right?
I mean, for this project, we would have to check.
I believe they were. I believe Lero was the.
Lero came afterwards, I mean, again.
Oh, not in the beginning?
I think it was
No,
Gardner and
we-
Thibault. Gardner and Thibault in 2000.
We had nothing to do, I mean, again, I know them very well, I mean,
Yeah.
And so what was the change that dropped it from, can you speak around the facts around what Ben just said? There was a $197,000 request that was.
The main change was, by the way,
That was the total change order.
it was for the support services. So the support services, initially, they asked for 3% of the construction. And once the change order actually came through, it was dropped to 1.5% instead of 3%, which caused that drop in the actual totals. It's a big drop.
Yeah, and so,
Didn't Dorian Isley make a complaint at the time that it was dangerous and you guys weren't overseeing it?
I believe so,
Dorian
yeah.
Isley.
And that was
filed a
related to the
the
flag
oversight.
people.
Yes, the flag
And then,
people
and the report of Gandhi to make sure that they have flag people all the time. So yes, that's around the same
Yeah,
period of time.
like Dorian, my recollection was Dorian came and said, this isn't being the oversight isn't good enough on this, and people are gonna get hurt.
yeah,
And you need more people.
and so you remember you were there?
I was there.
Okay, yeah.
The same people on board,
Yeah.
based on the resolution, almost.
Yeah.
With addition new people.
Yeah.
The same board, basically, who was working on this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it predates I joined REAC in 2019, so.
No, not you, and Ben and Lydia, but,
Okay, so let's touch back on that again, because obviously that's a weird, reduction from 3 to 1.5%. If there's a way to find out how to.
Again, it's listen, I mean, we had gone by the rule of thumb, basically 3%,
Okay, sure.
Right.
And you communicated that to REAC, and REAC said, sure, no problem.
With the change order was offered.
New York said, no, I mean, again, we will only pay you for 1%,
we don't need it here.
So basically,
You don't have
so,
to watch
so
all
I'm just gonna restate what we know is that REAC had no structural engineer. You're saying that was Gardenier involved in the decision?
And about, I don't know whether they involved in this decision, but I'm just looking at the memo that was approved by the board. I'm
Right,
reading the
and
memo.
Gardenier were involved in that memo.
It doesn't say, but, yeah, this comes from Steve. Nolan.
Okay, so this is something to look into.
Gardiner and Theobald was a British or Irish from that I don't know. I mean,
So, let me get to that. So like, one is like, obviously, this is just for us, for our oversight to figure out, we have a contract, obviously, we can't just go to the engineer and say, we need less people without knowing if we need less
I have
people.
another question about process,
Yeah,
and it has to do with, I mean, all throughout this, Lero Group is still the owner's representative.
Right.
No, apparently not. They
They-
have.
they're gonna become that next year.
They're not part of, but they're still part of some other project.
Correct,
Right.
right,
They're
yeah.
not our owner's rep at the moment,
So who
but
was
back
the
in
engineer
2018,
from
it was.
REAC who was communicating?
It was another owner's rep that I believe is Gardner, it was a different owner's rep that I believe is Gardner.
Gardner
No, no,
Theobald
no.
was
Theo-
the owner's
Gardi-
rep for Rio. They
Gardiner-
had all the
Okay, we
resources for the
Yeah, yeah.
One
engineer.
person,
Yeah,
one person,
yeah.
please.
So Gardner was the.
Gardner was the Lero back then.
Accused them for.
I don't think they were the owner's rep, because they, from all communications, it looked like a different person every single time.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
understand
Can
here,
I
who
explain
was,
too?
yeah, who were you meeting with? Who was your structural engineer or engineer?
Noon brought in Gardiner and Theobald, a British company that I had never heard of.
Right,
Okay, and I'm in.
They were speaking on behalf of REAC.
at some point,
They
later
were
down.
hired by
Fine.
New York, you know, and they didn't even have a license to practice engineering in New York State.
I'm sorry, were they just for this I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
But
good, no,
just
go
for
ahead, go
this project or other projects as well? I'm asking the REAC.
They were owner's representative for REAC for all construction projects.
All,
Mhm.
and Lero at that time,
Was not.
not-
Was just a
they
contractor.
were here in
Right.
2014, they disappeared,
Right.
and now they've reemerged.
Right,
here.
right.
And they
Yeah, yeah.
actually do have their office in New York City.
Okay, so let me just continue. So we're in February 14, 2018. The GE reports that their RE needs to step down due to some health issues and suggested a few new options along with their staff until they confirm a new general engineer. February 16, a kickoff meeting at REAC for the rehab project starts. March 5th, GE raises concerns over the flaggers, which we talked about, for traffic control, noting that they were only present some of the time. They intervened. This was flagged as a security concern. The contractor had included a substantial amount in his bid for traffic controls for flaggers. Martin from GE informed Mr. Green from REAC about SDS cutting corners and endangering the public. So it sounds like that obviously you were doing your due diligence of making sure that you're providing oversight over a contractor, and thankfully for that, we added the flaggers, but it also shows that, we're talking about SCS, and you already raised suspicions over how they were even appointed, that they should have never got that role.
Absolutely.
And those were referred to the IG's office. All this conversation obviously would go there. So we're not going to go into stuff related to legalities, but we are going to go into issues related to oversight. So it sounds like that we should take a deeper look into that contract with the actual contractors and see the RFP and see the bids and see how the scoring is done.
I think,
But you have.
He's got it.
But let's just hold off on this, Dr. Gandhi, because Dr. Gandhi, I'm talking to the board and I'm talking to this committee, that we should look into the actual RFP and to look into the scoring of them and understand was it done appropriately or not appropriately, and understand how did SDS that looked like was cutting corners ended up being the contractor, and Dr. Gandhi also adds that they were the lowest bidder. SDS were the lowest bidder, but they ended up, I think, doubling the amount that they actually captured. So, Dr. Gandhi, you're still with me?
I'm sorry, yeah.
So Dr. Gandhi stated that SDS was the lowest bidder, obviously was not vetted through his team. They bid about 2.4 million or something like that. 2.8, and they ended up capturing
4.6.
4.6. So obviously, this bidding and the scoring of 40% for the lowest bidders seems to not necessarily reflect what ends up being in the end point. And one thing that Lydia and I were talking about from the governance perspective and the procurement policy is that we need to add O2, and besides the scoring of vendors before they do work, we should figure out a schema of scoring vendors after the work is concluded. So that way, if, and I don't know the exact mechanisms, but we need to figure out if someone's doing a really great job and they're in the right money and they're safe and all that stuff, that we reward them for it. And if someone is not, then we don't rehire them again. So we need to figure out some sort of mechanism besides the pre-scoring to post-score as well, to make sure that we have someone ongoing. This is the contractor we worked with multiple times. This is their pre-score. This is their post-score. We'll figure that out as part of our back and forth, Lydia, with the rest of the committee and our volunteers to figure out what scoring mechanism could we add for that post-mortem.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, at
So
the time,
currently, like, based on, I just pulled up, the, rate and ranking summary sheet, for the Helix renovation design project. So the first category, I'm just explaining the criteria, is qualifications. Second is qualification experience of proposed staff that they have. Then the third qualification was experience in concrete. And the fourth is references, and then the fifth is cost and fees. And then also, you know, if it's affiliated with MWBE.
Okay, so now let's jump into like the real hot area, the reason why we're here today. So June 12, 2018, GE requests another $99,000. This is about making sure that they're paid through September. They're saying that they still need more GE time allocated and more support services, construction support services. They're out of funds. They make a change order request. I don't have the communications from REAC.
I think it was specifically for the flat plaza area.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do see Dr. Gandhi asking in June, saying, hey, we're out of money, here's our invoice, are you gonna pay us? No one answers according to him, because I didn't got any other documents from REAC side. Then August comes, he makes another invoice, because another month passed, he asks for funds, no one answers. September, no one answers as well. And thereafter, I'm not gonna go into the whole litany of conversations from 2018, once the project was concluded. So Dr. Gandhi knows already he's not getting paid. He's not getting paid in June, not getting paid in July, not getting paid in August, not getting paid in September. But he helps the projects through these 4 months, even though he's sending monthly invoices without getting any answer, according to him, because I never got the response from REAC side. And now it starts a litany of allegations that start from Gardenier. And Gardenier more or less says to him, which we said, that this is not a fixed project, it's a time, labor, material, well, sorry, they say it's a fixed project, while Dr. Gandhi says it's a time, labor, material. I think we all are aware now that there's absolutely no way for it to be a time, labor, material if a contract was signed in 2013 for 6 months, and it's 2018 right now.
No, fixed project.
fixed project.
No way.
It's no way it could be a fixed project.
Right, yeah.
It's not logical.
Right.
There's no logic there, so I think it would be even insulting to tell Dr. Gandhi that it's a fixed project 5 years later.
Can I make a,
Yeah, please.
I'm not racist, but apparently she was a high school dropout. I mean, I think, she was fresh out of college and never worked in her life in a day. She did not know construction administration, cost estimating, specifications. I'm talking Miss Cardero, Christina Cardero. She was the lady appointed by Gardiner and Theobald.
Oh, she worked for the construction company.
So, and I don't want to go into that because I
No, I'm
don't.
just saying, she had no understanding of construction. If I say in my Indian language, she was not even born when I started engineering,
Let me just go because I want to stay on topic,
Sure.
and I apologize. So one of the things that obviously are clear, we had a change order for we had a change order earlier. Now, because we're talking about a time, labor, and material contract, Dr. Gandhi once a month would send his invoice once a month an invoice for the times that was consumed in that month. REAC then paid them, and he has like this nice big stack of payments that he got throughout that period of time. From an oversight perspective, how do we run out of money without knowing we were running out of money on a project, right? So if we allocated $200,000, and let's say that our claim is right, that only $200,000 should have been spent until September. I'm not even going to say if it is or not. I'm not going to say if it is or not. But how could it be that we had no oversight to flag and say, hey, we're running out of money? What do we do? Do we let the contractor think they're going to get paid and continue working when they think that there's some issue here in
Well, the question is, what does the contract say?
the contract was signed in 2013?
No, what does it say? What does it say?
In
What-
2013?
What do the terms of the contract say
I
are owed
I
to
think
the?
a lot of said not to exceed, I guess that at that time,
No.
12, schedule
Yeah.
B2, the first paragraph.
Cause
but I
that's the-
think the amount was 244,000 at that time, but then
Yeah.
obviously with the
And then
change
we were
orders.
saying that we extended, honestly, there are actually two contracts, and we are confusing the work design contract on this project that Gandhi Engineering performed earlier in 2013. That portion was done, resident engineer was not needed back then because we didn't start construction. Then we hired Specialty Construction System to do the actual works on Helix. And then we requested Gandhi Engineering to help us as a full-time resident engineer. And when Specialty Construction System started doing their actual construction job, they have some issues with the design, and that's why we have change orders for resident engineer, Gandhi Engineering, plus we have several change orders for Specialty Construction Systems that we're doing actual construction work. Because of the changes in resident engineers, designs or whatever, like I'm not an expert.
Could I touch on that just to
And
understand
then
it?
we have a much higher contract at the end for construction because they rely on design and full-time resident engineer. And this is why I understand where the payments were not made on time.
Let me, before we go into the payments necessarily, and I kind of want to piggyback on what you were saying, Conway. So if I'm getting this correctly, and please, anyone that says I'm wrong, say I'm wrong, because I'm not sure that I do. I only saw one contract. There was one contract I saw for the project in 2013.
Yes,
Is there a separate project for Dr. Gandhi for the period of time between 2013 and 2018? A separate contract?
exactly.
And I wasn't privy.
Gandhi
Could I see
Engineering,
it?
all the change orders were in connection.
Could I see the new contract?
The new contract is not here, but it's.
Yeah, I want to see the contract.
Specialty, I can email this to you.
Yeah, I want to see the
It's
contract.
yes, it's.
We're not going to solve your issue today,
Specialty
but, yeah, I'll see that. I'm happy to see any document you want to
Yeah, I
see.
think I have it.
This is a memo, it's not a contract.
Yeah,
I want to
don't
see
have
the contract.
This is my
Yeah.
contract.
That's your contract, and we also have specialty construction system contract for actual construction.
Okay, so
work.
I'm not gonna, I don't like debating, I like looking at documents, I got a lot of them. So,
And change orders.
So
That's the
Gandhi
contract in
has one
question.
contract, this one.
But-
right, so we're in agreement that he has only one contract. So, okay, so we're back to what I was talking about.
You're saying, no matter what went on, how did we get to a point where this gentleman did not get paid for months, and we were not notified several months in advance, hey,
Right.
we're getting to the top of
We're
the
getting low,
scale.
right.
We're getting low on funds, or we've got some more,
Who said we didn't know it? Our CFO looked at this.
Our board.
the board.
The board.
Why did the board
The board.
not know?
And why doesn't he,
Why the board did not what?
Know that,
That
We're running out of money.
You're either gonna have to do another change order, or we're running out of money.
No,
and
the board
it's a
was
limit.
keeping a freight since 2018, and the first issue, that the first exchange about non-payment, it was in 2019, when we received from, Dr. Gandhi and his firm, and.
okay,
our
let me
CFO
rephrase, because I don't want
responded.
you to say something incorrect by mistake. So, we're on a times and material contract. I'm completely disregarding the statement that in 2013 we had a fixed contract, because 2013 was a 6-month contract. That contract is dead because 6 months passed way beyond. Let's not negotiate it, because I'm not negotiating here. 2018, 5 years after the contract, Mr. Gandhi is still working for us, and he's receiving it. I'm trying to.
That's why.
I'm trying to.
So wait a minute.
Because it's firm now.
I'm trying. I understand. I understand. So I don't want you to say something on the record that would reflect negatively. So I'm asking questions, I'm not making statements. 2018, the contract from 2013 is not relevant because it's from 2013 and it was scoped in a certain amount of time.
When I asked before, I thought we heard that Mr. Gandhi was paid in full for 2014.
Right.
Yeah.
So these amendments, which are adding, and you're telling me the contract says not to exceed, well, this doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not relevant.
I'm not an engineer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a finance
It went to
person.
the board at the time when it was
But
done.
there's a problem in
You're
the
right.
process.
You're right.
If a contract says not to exceed, he's paid in full for the 300,000 or whatever it was in 2018.
That's it,
And then
project's over.
somebody is sending him amendments every year, or however it was, every 6 months, and not paying.
It's
Well,
not somebody, it's the board, there's a.
And unless the change orders are being approved by REAC and allow them to get more money for his work that he's doing. that should have been paid to you.
Yeah, that's the, I don't understand.
And I don't know enough about the background here to know whether that happened or not, but it
Right,
seems to me that there was
If I lock in, because I don't want to go into specific necessarily of
Yes,
this
so you
project.
requested to do the work.
So just again,
The
we have,
change orders were for the.
again, there's obviously a process issue. And to
Correct.
your point, there's a board oversight issue, a very clear board oversight issue.
I'm not saying this because the board approved and the change orders were, signed, and there was issue with payments because our department was not happy with the work that was performed, and that's reflected in the financial.
Then you
record.
terminate the
Well,
contract.
okay, well, that's a different story, yeah.
But I think I'm
But
back
it's
where
also
Audrey is.
plain.
Was
We
there
don't
a
know.
new contract? Now, you're saying there was, but I recall at the time we had a panel of engineers where we
Right.
didn't have to go out for bid every time we needed to do things.
Right.
So we could just say to an engineering firm, we want you to do this job without bidding it out, kind
But
of
we
like
signed a
New York
contract
State
with them,
reporter.
don't we?
No,
Excuse me.
because there's.
We have an ongoing
They're
contract
on
with
the
their
panel.
hourly rate.
Architect engineering contract, and then we have task orders for specific tasks.
Fantastic. So in those, you have, like,
Right.
you have a contract with Dr. Gandhi in 2018 that says, don't spend more than $100,000?
Yes, that's the contract, that's the one in question from 2013, that's.
Not 2015, not
13.
2015.
We're not talking
13.
about.
It's definitely not 13, I'm talking about 2018.
That's
Again, but when we went to the board, when the management went to the board, they explained this in their memos that, Gandhi, Engineering is on a panel, and
Right.
since they did the design, we now want to retain them as full-time resident engineer.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, and I agree with
Yes,
you.
and
So 2013, we had a contract, which was done. And then for some reason, we're doing change orders in 2018 over a contract that was concluded already.
I don't think they were, I think we're calling them change orders, but are they change orders?
They're not change
Or are
orders.
they new tasks for?
They're new tasks,
from-
exactly.
It's, the only reason for the panel was so we wouldn't have to go out to bid all the time.
Right.
So we said to this engineering firm, here's a specific task, we don't have to go out to bid, because we
Right.
know you, you're on our panel and all, and we approve that. I don't call that a change order.
I don't
to an
either.
original contract.
Everything was presented to the board with the explanation from the management, and the board voted on that.
Sure, I accept what you're saying.
So if you can look at the board
But-
memos.
I looked at it.
explain
So the
how
board-
it was done and why we actually, this contract for design was completed, but now we have change orders, because I don't know why they called it change orders, or was it correct way, because I was not part
But
of
that's
this.
the question.
But it's
Yeah,
explained,
yeah,
and
That's,
it was
that's a governance
clarified.
question, by the way.
Right.
So, and I just
I'm
wanna,
not saying this was not right, because again, I was not part
I'm not
of it.
saying any-
I'm just looking at the past documents that I
Yeah.
printed for everyone's attention, and it was brought and explained to the board.
right,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you very
I
much.
completely accept.
Which docs were those?
Yes, these are,
Yeah,
these
they're
are
in your
change
file.
orders.
So now-
One of these files.
Now, if I may, thank you. So 2013, we have a contract with Dr. Gandhi. He fulfills that contract. It's really concluded. Now, because he's part of the structural engineers,
Panel.
panel,
Architectural
engineer panel,
Please.
please let me, I heard you. I want to echo a full sentence. So as part of the structural engineer panel, we reach out to Dr. Gandhi because he has a background with this project as well, and we ask him to fulfill more work on this project.
Right.
We don't sign with him a new contract. Instead of signing a new contract with him, we go to the board and say, we need $99,000 or we need $50,000 for additional work for a contract that was done in 2013. What we're saying is that for a future, we're not talking about you, Dr. Gandhi, for future contracts, we don't think it's appropriate for it to be bundled into the same contract because it's a separate contract, even if done,
And the board doesn't really get involved in
and
that
the board,
process piece.
exactly.
It's a different job.
Right, it's a different job.
Different job. Whole
It's
different thing.
related, but completely different, and then you wouldn't have a dilemma, is it fixed, is it time, labor, and materials? Because I don't think there's any, I don't think anyone is disagreeing about 2013, the question is what happens in 2018.
Right.
So,
How did this get so confused?
Exactly.
And that's what I think,
Right, that's,
as Lydia wants the governance committee to figure out, is there a way that we can
Yeah,
clarify
so we
this
can
so it
make-
doesn't get confused again?
So
Yeah.
we establish policy so that doesn't happen, the
Yeah.
confusion doesn't happen. So
Agreed.
We need clarity,
Yeah.
we need transparency, and we need this organization to go forward.
And I know we have new people around the table, but Lana, the three of you guys, the legal, the operations, and the financial, this is a very important communication, like what Mr. Gandhi's situation presents. So, when something like this happens, was there a communication vision?
There's actually much more to
You
this
know, they're
story,
running out
but
of
we are
money.
not going into this, It was looked at by our CFO, it was looked by 3 general counsels and outside counsels, because there is
And
more to
no
the
red
story.
flag?
So I'm not elaborating on this at all.
No, I'm not either, but as we talk processes, no red flags, like, we paid this, Mr. Gandhi, all that his contract says, we need to make a new contract, or,
It's working.
I just need to, as we talk about processes
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Well,
this is a-
I think it's fine to talk about updating processes. It's not clear to me that the facts are understood in this matter.
Yeah.
Or that there is a process, a policy that actually does need to be changed.
But what is the policy now?
Mhm.
Well, we have our contract procurement policy right here.
Mm-hmm.
The policies are laid out, and it talks about how bids and changes and things should be done.
Mhm.
I'm not hearing that there was an infringement of anything that's in here just yet, because I don't hear that anybody here understands the facts of what actually happened.
I agree.
Now, if you're gonna tell me that a policy wasn't followed, then let's talk about that.
His procurement policy was.
But I'm not hearing that.
I could say that. I'm happy to make a statement in that matter.
It's not the
Yeah.
policy, procurement, I think, was followed, it's the process, right?
No, but there is a
That's
policy that
okay.
was not followed.
Yeah.
Very clearly,
Which policy was not followed?
although I'm more than happy to explain if you guys want to hear it out. So clearly, we had a contract in 2013. I have no issue with the contract in 2013. It expired, it died, it was over. 2016 comes, or 2018 comes, a new contract should have been issued, which hasn't. And if our procurement policy doesn't reflect that, we should make sure in our procurement policy that whatever you bring back from the dead, a contract 4 years later or 5 years later, even if it's relevant, we should start a new contract. It seems reasonable, especially if the contract has an expiry, which passed due in 2014.
I think I understand what happened, because maybe we call them change orders, but in reality, these were task orders to Gandhi Engineering, because they were on our architectural engineering panel. Probably there was some misunderstanding with the word change order and task order. I think that's why we have these task orders. It should be understood as task orders.
Can we hear from Dr. Gandhi?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, Dr. Gandhi.
The task orders are specific, I gave in my, DDC, gave 5 contracts, separate ones. Those are, we had a $12 million budget, and then we were given task order 1, task order 2.
Right.
This was specifically designed to take care of the Helix ramp project. This was not a task order again, as I said, as an engineer that I know in all my career.
That's my understanding as well, and I would add.
I don't think it was a task order either,
It was
because then why
specifically-
would they start the change order form with the original contract?
It's unrelevant.
$24,000.
And that's.
Yeah, so they're attaching it to the original
So
contract.
from-
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I take it back.
I appreciate that. So from a policy perspective, obviously there was a void in, if we're saying that he's just part of the engineer panel, and we're hiring him because he's part of the engineer column, that's a completely separate contract. And we don't have a completely separate contract, and that is our problem here. So to your question, that is our policy.
It's a
and
different
policy
job.
is-
It's a different job.
Different job.
A different job, exactly.
So the policy has to be.
Yeah.
I don't think, first of all, we heard just Dr. Gandhi's story. We
Right.
don't have anyone from RIAC who was on the management side and explained why it was done
Yeah,
certain
I
way.
would- we definitely need to hear that.
It's our assumptions and guesses, and I, for example, assume it's a task order and it's.
Right,
I
no, I
don't
appreciate
know.
that. So,
We cannot hear their side. We only can look at the documents that were signed by fiscal department or legal department and in further communication. This is second. Also, I don't believe that any policy were violated here, not procurement policy, because it doesn't even, it's a contract, and how it was handled, it's our internal, it's not something that's in the corporate policy.
I personally, even if no policy was violated, the policies
Yeah.
need to update. If a policy,
Which policy?
I literally just said that a new contract should have been signed, and
I
if 5 years.
think it was just mismanagement.
Yeah, okay, so we need to make sure that in our policy, to be very clear, I can't be more clear than this. 2013, there was a contract that was scoped for 6 months. Extended, a contract or update to the contract needs to be had. Now, if we're doing something completely different, a completely separate contract, unrelated to the original, end of the day, if I had a contract with someone and it lasts forever, I would be frustrated. Forget about if you got fully paid. If you're in a contract with a company and you're supposed to do it for 3 months and you end up doing it for 20 years, there's something, a gap here, it needs to be sorted out.
I just want to say, there were reasons that the contract was delayed, we don't know why it was delayed. because
I'm not going into it, yeah.
Both Helix, this is
Well,
first.
let's make sure we get all the rest of the facts from Dr. Gandhi
Yes.
before,
Awesome.
he has to go. And-
Yeah.
And then let's have our internal deliberation amongst the governance committee, once he's gone.
That totally makes sense, okay?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that, well said. Now, I'm not gonna go into the back and forth from 2018 until today, but they were very insulting, and I personally was insulted when I read the communications with Dr. Gandhi. And I think a lot of it is due to confusion, a lot of it is due to having, like you said, different people every single time, and then relying on documents that might not have been accurate. But in any event, I want to go back to kind of like a few global questions now that we kind of got that big picture out of the way. Now, I realize that you were very hurt, and I always answer every email of any person who reaches out to me. I try my best to wait a week to see if anyone else will before I do. When I saw no one was going to answer to you, I was the first to answer. And I'm actually very grateful for Conway to joining in now and being part of this conversation as well. I was really touched by when I learned, because like, obviously you were frustrated, and REAC was willing to settle. In the beginning, they said, we'll pay you $30,000, and they said, we'll pay you $90,000, but they were never willing to pay the full $200,000. Now, at some point, you showed willingness, you showed willingness to donate all the funds to charity. I know that's not the case today, but you were so frustrated because you said, I'm right, I'm gonna get the funds that I deserve. It's not even about the money at this stage. If I get the money, I'm gonna donate it to charity. Now, I know that you pulled yourself back from that position, which is completely understandable, but I wanna kind of like put it into the record how noble I believe you are in that kind of approach. And if REAC said to you, whenever you made that approach, I don't know when it was, 6 months ago or a year ago, if they said, okay, we're gonna work with you, we have a lot of charities here who would die to get some money. We have a lot of people begging us for money, including the nonprofits. And if I was there a year ago, I would come to the board and ask, could we do a yearly charity that we give $250,000 to our nonprofits. If we would allocate an extra $50,000 a year for $150,000 a year. If we would allocate another $50,000 a year for 3 or 4 years and name it on you and even allow you to make those selections, maybe we would come to a compromise, and we're not in that stage right now, I'm aware of it. If we came to you and said, we have our cultural center, which is used by a food pantry, which is used by the theater, which is used by multiple groups, and it costs us a lot of money. If we said, well, maybe could we offer you to name that facility to the Gandhi Cultural Center and provide rent-free for a certain amount of years, maybe you would have been negotiable a year ago because you were charitable and willing at that time. And I know currently it's not relevant. And and I'm not going to negotiate, but I just want to show your character to the board, which shows a lot of character. He knew he was right. He wanted you guys to say that he's right, and it wasn't even about the money because he was willing to compromise a year ago, which he's not now. Now, I know that REAC is saying, well...
I think his attorney also sent us letters saying, can we come to like a mutual settlement?
Right.
Yes, without going to court.
Right.
And we responded to this letter.
So let's be careful on how we characterize right and wrong here.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'm not saying that, I'm
You don't
saying
wanna
that...
make statements.
All I'm saying that if we would have been negotiable and charitable with Dr. Gandhi a year ago, we wouldn't be sitting in this chair today. Now, what I would like to do is I kind of want to move on a bit. We understand really the Lyra Group was not your main point of contact throughout the duration of the project. But I know that Lyra Group was hired as our owner's representative in 2019.
They did work earlier.
No, I'm talking about as owner rep.
They officially signed like a multi-year contract, I think, in 2019.
Audrey?
Can I,
Yeah, please.
again, it's my ignorance in the organization. So when Lyra Group is your owner's rep, who do they report to at REAC? Who do you check in with to say, this is a big job,
Right.
this is where we're at,
CFO.
we need another amendment?
The director of capital planning,
Yeah.
and now, yeah.
So I want to say that I'm concerned, because I know that the Lyra Group was not involved with the initial project, but as the owner representation, I don't feel that we had really good owner representation over the relationship after the project was concluded as well.
The last communication from Gandhi Engineering until recent was from 2019.
Right.
And we haven't heard from Dr. Gandhi for the past 5 years.
So I want to touch on about that for a
No,
second.
ma'am, I have a copy of it, I sent a letter to.
When?
Yearly, 2019, 2020, he's been reaching out continuously.
2020?
2020.
Yeah, there's letters
June
going
8th,
back.
2020.
Yeah, there's a lot of letters going back here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And.
He reached out in 2018.